acknowledge the few. And we will do that both after my comments, and then beginning at 7 p.m. we'll have the formal ceremony as part of the council meeting. What I'd like to do is, first of all, introduce council members. Mayor Kathy Grossman is right up here at the front, and Vice Mayor Michael Gill is right up here. We also have Councilmember Tony Bradburn and Councilmember Ashley Chance. There are 3 other council members, but I want to introduce them in a moment. I think one thing unique to the city of Mason, some of you may be aware we have different committees that council organizes into to address different issues. But unique, we also have not quite a committee, it's actually a board of Veterans Affairs. And that means it's more official, standing, it's arranged by city statute. I'm not aware of many communities that have that, but Mason established that some years ago because we had such a track record and such an interest in engaging with the veterans community. On that Veterans Board, which is leading our program here at the beginning here, are behind me, and those are Council Members T.J. Hunterlaw, Council Member Diana Nelson, and Council Member Josh Stricula. As part of that board, it's composed of both council members as well as it's required to have representatives from the veterans community. And so we're also privileged to have John Looker, who serves on that board, as well as Roger Herron, who serves on that board. I think for all of them, it may be worth acknowledging the service they've done for tonight. The other part of my job here is a little harder because I always fail at it, no matter how many times I've had to do this. That is acknowledging some of the other dignitaries here. And I want to make that clear that we're acknowledging officials that are here to help us really honor those that the program is geared towards. And I always fail at this because I always miss some. But I'm aware of tonight we have from Warren County, County Commissioner Tom Grossman. We also have County Recorder Linda Oda in the back there. Thank you for coming. We also have from Mason City Schools, we have Kevin Wise from Mason School Board, School Superintendent Jonathan Cooper, and Assistant Superintendent Todd Petrie, also there at the back. Yes. We also have Judge T. I saw him earlier. In the back. Thank you, Judge. We have from the City of Mason Planning Commission, Dick Staten, also former mayor and council member of Mason. I'm glad to have Dick here. We also have former Vice Mayor Barbara Berry Spaeth, who is here, front and center. And I saw former council member and former mayor Shard Pelfrey. She's back here in the corner. I'd like to thank them for coming. We also would like to extend recognition to some folks from the state. Roger Friend, who is the state commander of the American Legion. Please stand, Roger, Commander. And Dave Hoff, who is the state commander of the Military Order of Purple Heart. I'm sure I've missed someone, and I apologize. And if I find out, maybe at the end, we'll catch up. I want to thank all of these folks for coming, as I mentioned, primarily because they're here to help us acknowledge the veterans, the families that will about the Purple Heart. Councilmember Josh Stricula will acknowledge Purple Heart recipients. Councilmember Diana Nelson will acknowledge Gold Star families. And then Commander John Looker will acknowledge Purple Heart recipients that have passed. With that, Mayor Grossman.
Thank you so much. My job is to express our sincere debt of gratitude. We are so blessed to see the treasure of all of you here in this building with us today. And as we soberly reflect on the sacrifices of those who have been wounded or killed in battle and earned the Purple Heart, we gather together in sacred gratitude and just in a place of honor. We are thankful for our Board of Veterans Affairs and the calling on Mr. Looker's life to pursue his passion to lovingly care for and shepherd the veterans in our community. And he does that beautifully with the help of our Veterans Board. So we're very thankful for all of the work you do. And you too, Roger, thank you. And at this time, I have nothing more to say other than thank you and how humbled and grateful we are. Councilmember Honorlove, would you like to come up and share? Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mayor and Eric. Let me start by personally saying thank you to all our veterans, to the commanders of the local veterans associations, and to the members of the Military Order of Purple Heart, and all our honored guests. As a son of an Army veteran and a father of a son currently going through basic compact training in Fort Benning, Georgia, I'm humbled and honored to be a part of this commission and part of today's ceremony. With Veterans Day coming up here in a couple days, I've been seeing a few memes on social media, and I saw one I wanted to mention. It says, "What is a veteran?" A veteran, whether active duty, discharged, retired, or reserve, is someone who at one time in his life wrote a blank check made payable to the United States of America for an amount up to and including his life. That is an honor. And there's way too many people in this country today who no longer understand and appreciate that fact. Hopefully today we're taking steps that'll help bring more awareness. As Americans, we enjoy freedoms and privileges not found anywhere else in the world. We enjoy the opportunity to pursue our dreams, move freely throughout the country, to vote, to voice our displeasure over the way the government and policies were run, decisions and policies, and to worship the way we choose. Sometimes it seems we can take these freedoms for granted, while around the world, our service members remain forward where they are set into harm's way to protect us from those who are actively trying to threaten our way of life. Because of these great men and women, the United States is still a beacon of hope for millions around the world. And as John Winthrop so beautifully said, it's still that city upon a hill. So how is it possible that after nearly 245 years, our nation remains free, remains strong, remains America the beautiful? The answer is sitting right here among us today, throughout the city of Mason and this great land of ours. The reason is that our nation is blessed to have brave men and women who voluntarily stand up, they raise their hand and take an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So the Purple Heart is a medal of the Department of Defense formal recognition of those veterans who were killed or wounded in combat. It's one of the few medals awarded in the name of the President. Currently, there's over 900 cities across the country that have taken steps like this to become a Purple Heart community. Tonight, Mason is honored to become part of this distinct group. The current Purple Heart Award dates back to 1932 when it replaced the Badge of Military Merit, which took the form of a heart of purple cloth and goes all the way back to the American Revolution. It is the oldest U.S. military decoration still given to U.S. military members. This is the only decoration awarded without regard to a person's favor or approval. The Purple Heart is awarded for the first wound suffered at one time, and each succeeding award is acknowledged with an oak leaf cluster or a 5/16" star in lieu of another medal. The distinct color and shape of the medal is likely the reason Americans seem to recognize it more than any other military decoration. Over 1.7 million Americans have received Purple Hearts. The Purple Heart is not intended to commemorate the dead, but to animate and inspire the living. The Purple Heart represents the reality of the risk our service members face. While they don't seek our thanks or our recognition, we owe it to them all. To all the servicemen and women with us this evening, here with us this evening, again, thank you for your service. Thank you for continuing to inspire us. And as you thank them tonight for their service and listen to their names of other Purple Heart recipients that are about to be read now, I ask that you include them in your thoughts and prayers. On behalf of all of us here at the City of Mason, I thank you for your service. May God bless you, and may God bless these United States of America. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Josh Stricula, one of the City Council members here in Mason, as well as a member of the Veterans Affairs Board, excuse me. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for sharing in this extreme privilege that we get to have to honor the City of Mason as a Purple Heart city and to honor those that have received the Purple Heart. I do want to thank the Veterans Affairs Board for all their hard work, for city staff, the work that they've done, for our residents that sit on the board, Roger Herron sitting behind me, and Mr. John Looker, of course. Towards the end of my time in service, our unit's motto was, "Come back with your shield or on it." Our commander at the time, he was a military historian buff, and the movie 300 was out. It was very popular at the time. And the movie 300, if you remember, was about the Spartans that fought the Persian army at the Battle of Thermopylae, 300 Spartans. And the Spartans, the idea was that they had this massive shield that they carried around, like a Roman phalanx shield. And it was heavy. It was hard to carry, and you couldn't run with it. So if a Spartan soldier came back to their village without their shield, they obviously dropped their shield and ran away as a coward. So come back with your shield or on it. And inevitably in battle, as these Spartans would fight, there would be injured soldiers and some that were killed. And these shields were big enough that they could act as a makeshift gurney. And so the soldiers, they'd put those injured soldiers on the shields and they would carry them back on it. So come back with your shield or on it. There's honor in that. Calvin Coolidge said, "No person was ever honored for what he received. Honor has been the reward for what they gave." Ladies and gentlemen, we are surrounded tonight by men and women of honor. And some I want to specifically recognize tonight that received the Purple Heart. And I ask that as I mention their names, if they could please stand, be recognized. We have gifts for them. They'll be willing to pass those out. First one, Roger Coates. Roger Coates. Larry Cox. This next recipient receives 7 Purple Hearts. Marvin Duran. Harry Enos. Michael Eves. Doug Lawson. John Looker. George Mitchell. Last on my list, certainly not least, this gentleman received 5 Purple Hearts. Oliver Patterson. These recipients are recipients that live here in the city of Mason. I know that we have some distinguished guests that received the Purple Heart that aren't residents of the city of Mason. So if we can just give them a round of applause as well, please. Gentlemen, I salute you and the sacrifice that you have made. Thank you. To all my veterans, our time in uniform may be over, but our watch is never done. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that we didn't call? There's Phil Turner. That was amazing. It brings tears to your eyes. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I want to thank the City of Mason. I want to thank the Veterans Committee for all of their hard work. And I also want to thank Chief Farrell. He has done a lot to make this happen for our city, and I just want to make sure that all his hard work doesn't go unnoticed. I'm Diana Nelson. I'm a Mason City Council member. I'm also on the Veterans Board, and I also serve on the board of Blue Skies for the Good Guys and Gals Warrior Foundation. So I've dedicated a lot of my time to the veterans. Today, I'd like to honor the families who have suffered the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. A Gold Star family is a somber designation that is given to a family who has lost an immediate family member in the line of duty. The phrase Gold Star family dates back to World War I, when military families displayed service flags featuring a blue star for every immediate family member that was serving in the armed forces. The star color would change to gold if the family lost a loved one in the war, hence the term Gold Star family. We have hundreds of thousands of Gold Star family members living among us. I'd like to ask if you are a Gold Star family, if you would like to speak or say a brief word about your loved ones so that we can honor them. Would you like raise your hand?
Good evening. My name is Paul Zanowick. My son, Paul Zanowick II, we called Rocky, was a Marine. He served with the Marine Corps and deployed to Afghanistan in April of 2011. On June 3rd of 2011, our son was killed in combat operations in an ambush in the Helmand province in Afghanistan.
My name's John Prozinski, and I represent my son, Taylor. Taylor was killed in the Al-Anbar province of Iraq, May 9th of 2005.
Is there anyone else that wants to come forward?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have a special place in my heart for Gold Star families, as I'm sure all of you do. They have given the ultimate sacrifice for this country. God bless this country.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is an honor to mention some of those members of Mason who have either received a Purple Heart or were killed in action during the wars. I got my information. There's nothing out there. There's no resource for this. I got a lot from our Mason Veterans Memorial out here, as well as across the street at Rose Hill Cemetery. There's 1,500 veterans buried at Rose Hill Cemetery. And I walked each row and looked at each one to see if there was somebody there that had actually was killed in one of the wars or received a Purple Heart. So I'd like to read those names at this time. William B. Woods, killed in action, 8/14/2019, OEF. Jonathan Cam, killed in action, 2/27/91, Desert Storm. Ralph Gerald Collins, Purple Heart recipient from Vietnam. William G. Grimes, Purple Heart recipient, Vietnam. Martin Gruber, killed in action, 8/8/1969, Vietnam. Roy William Henderson, killed in action, 3/10/1969, Vietnam. Teddy Eugene Middleton, killed in action, 7/15/1969, Vietnam. Jack Abrams Smith, Purple Heart recipient, Vietnam. David H. Wainscott, killed in action, 1/9/1967, Vietnam. Roger Yost, Purple Heart recipient, Vietnam. John L. Carroll, Purple Heart recipient, Korea. Joe Barr, Purple Heart recipient, World War II. George W. Berry, Purple Heart recipient, World War II. Leroy Brandt, Purple Heart recipient, World War II. Roscoe Eugene Case, killed in action, 10/2/1948, World War II. James Duffy, killed in action, and his, I do not have the dates for, he's on our Mason Veterans Memorial, World War II. Lauren Devon Gillum, Purple Heart recipient, World War II. Kenneth E. Glacken, killed in action, 3/6/1945, World War II. Louis Goforth, killed in action, 5/11/1945. Robert D. Hornrick, Purple Heart recipient. Woodrow Johnson, killed in action, 3/26/1944, World War II. Glenn L. Knight, Purple Heart recipient, World War II. Clifford McCurley, killed in action, 1/31/45, World War II. Fred J. Mickey, Purple Heart recipient, World War II. Richard Meisel, killed in action 5/7/1945, World War II. Gilbert Levi Morris, Purple Heart recipient, World War II. Robert Nelson Mount, killed in action 2/17/1945, World War II. Chester Napier, Purple Heart recipient. Donald M. Pageant, killed in action 10/25/1944. Howard Pemberton, Purple Heart recipient. J.R. Pennington, Purple Heart recipient, World War II. Howard Pennington, Purple Heart recipient, World War II. Donald R. Pettit, Purple Heart recipient, World War II. James C. Pohlman, killed in action, Iwo Jima, World War II. Clarence Jr. Price, Purple Heart recipient. William Leland Raper, Purple Heart recipient. Charles Roslett, killed in action. He's on our Mason Veterans Memorial. Richard Runyon died of his wounds, World War II. Fred Snell, killed in action, 5/29/1943, World War II. Ralph Stebleton, Purple Heart recipient. Newell Thompson, Purple Heart recipient. And Robert Varek, killed in action 9/11/1944. Again, I apologize if I've missed some of your family and loved members or members of your family, but like I said, I tried to get as many as I could. Thank you for the recognition.
I want to thank all of you for attending, all the participants, as well as the families recognized. One of the struggles that the city has had and the Board of Veterans Affairs has learned is you would expect maybe there'd be a census of Purple Heart winners. You'd expect there'd be a census of Gold Star families in the community. And we've always struggled to really get that together. Every time we do these type of events, whether it be a memorial, we have banners that folks we get better and better at that. And I think where the board arrived at, when you do events like this, sometimes you're fearful of missing, of overlooking the one. I think they made the decision that fear shouldn't prevent us from honoring all. So I'd encourage any of you that have additional veterans or Gold Star families that you know of in the community. We may not be aware of them because there isn't that census. Please email the city. Every time we do this, we get a little bit better. And we don't want to stop doing this for fear of not being perfect. With that said, thank you for everyone that's come. The intent here was to take that time to recognize individuals. Beginning at 7 p.m., we will shift to the highlight of the evening as we begin the council meeting in the chambers here. And there are seats in here, as well as seats and video in the room to my left. Will be the actual ceremony designating the city as a Purple Heart city. The Military Order of the Purple Heart will formally recognize the city as such and encourage you to stay and join us there. In the meantime, that begins at 7 p.m. So at 7 p.m., you'll see me trying to round folks up because we need to stay on that schedule. But in the meantime, there is still food remaining. I encourage you to take advantage of the refreshments as well as enjoy each other's company. Again, thank you for attending.
Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Check, 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 check. Check. There's a big delay there, Brian. There's a delay. Well, check. That's good. Check, 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 check. And it seems like I guess I can't tell because there's noise. I can't tell if it's coming over the speakers here or not, but yeah, check, 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 check. Yeah, I see it there. I guess I can hear it over the speakers. If I'm out in the room, I can hear it. It's just, it's loud because the doors are open. Yeah, let me go check her computer. Yeah, it does say co-host. Okay, yeah. Don't change anything. Okay. Okay, cool. All right, thanks.
Not ready. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, you can't put me on the spot like that.
did is more pressure than this. Having to give
After the prayer. Okay. All right. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Mason. It is November 9th, 2020. It's time to call our business meeting to order. Dan.
Councilmember Chance,
Here.
Councilmember Nelson,
Here.
Councilmember Bradburn, Councilmember Stricula,
Here.
Vice Mayor Gilb, Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Here.
Mayor Grossman.
Here. Thank you. We are blessed tonight to have our longtime chaplain of our fire and police and pastor of Grace Baptist Church, Pastor Jerry Pelfrey, here to open us up and cover us in prayer. And as soon as he finishes, the posting of the colors will occur and the Pledge of Allegiance. So just follow along. If you could all stand with us and join our hearts in prayer.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's pray together. God, we want to offer up our thanks for the many blessings that you have provided us. One being our veterans and our current military. Thank you for the freedom it provides for every citizen to believe in you, God, or the freedom not to believe. Tonight, we give thanks for those who in love for their country are Purple Heart recipients. Honor is a special word, and it was our honor tonight to see this, to be a part of it, and hear the families who lost their sons to give us our freedom. God, we thank you for our first responders. Keep them safe. Guide them in the many split-second decisions they make. Thank you for those who serve our community in various ways in leadership and behind the scenes. And as we now pray for our city council, I borrow the words from Benjamin Franklin regarding his concern over the Constitutional Convention in 1787. We shall be divided by our little partial local interest. Our projects will be confounded, and we ourselves shall become a reproach and a byword down to future ages. I therefore beg leave to move that henceforth prayers imploring the assistance of heaven and its blessings on our deliberations be held in this assembly every morning before we proceed into business, and that one or more of the clergy of this city be requested to officiate in that service. So God, we are imploring your grace upon our city council. Give them wisdom to make decisions that best serve you and our community. Remind us of the great commandment to love you, God, and to love our neighbor. And we need your help to desire this and to fulfill it. And we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. we present City Council along with the Mayor, our challenge home. So at this time, we would like to do that. Present home. At this time, we would like to present a plaque to the city of Mason for their willingness to become a Purple Heart City. If the mayor would please come up front. It is with a great honor and pleasure that we present this plaque to you, the City Council, and the City of Mason, Ohio. And this plaque reads as follows. The Military Order of the Purple Heart Special Recognition Award is bestowed with pride to the City of Mason, Ohio, for your dedication and support honoring America's combat wounded veterans becoming a Purple Heart City. Presented by the Patriot members of the Department of Ohio Military Order of the Purple Heart. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. It's an honor.
It is our pleasure. I'd like to do the proclamation,
Yes.
and is that over here on the?
Our proclamation to you?
Yes.
Yes, I have it over here.
Okay.
Yes, can I do that, please?
I'll
Thank
hold
you
on
for
to
this.
this for you.
Yes, hold that. Thank you. Thank you. We have today Resolution 2020-16. I need a motion from council to read Resolution 2020-16.
So moved.
Second.
Jeff, could you read the title?
2020-16, declaring the city of Mason, Ohio, a Purple Heart City.
Thank you. Whereas chartered by an act of Congress in 1958 for combat wounded veterans, the Military Order of the Purple Heart is composed of military men and women who receive the Purple Heart Medal, which is awarded in the name of the President of the United States to members of the armed forces wounded in combat with an enemy force, and posthumously to the next of kin members of the armed forces killed in combat. And whereas the Military Order of the Purple Heart organization was formed in 1932 for the protection and mutual interest of all who have received the combat decoration, it is composed exclusively of Purple Heart recipients and is the only congressionally chartered veteran service organization comprised strictly of combat veterans. And whereas the Order of the Purple Heart for Military Merit, established by General George Washington during the Revolutionary War at Newburgh, New York on August 7th, 1782, is the oldest military decoration in the world in present use. And whereas, in recognition of this date and the estimated 1.7 million veterans since World War I who have been awarded this Medal of Honor, the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Mason desire to be among the first of many to become a Purple Heart City, and to declare November 9th, 2020 as Purple Heart Day, as a tribute to the service and sacrifices of all veterans, and especially the valor of the extraordinary men and women who have earned the Purple Heart. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mason, Ohio, 7 members elected thereto concurring with Section 1, that the Council of the City of Mason, Ohio hereby designates and proclaims the City of Mason, Ohio, a Purple Heart City. Section 2, this resolution confirms the city's commitment to honor those who serve and have served so faithfully in defense of our freedoms as Americans, and gratefully acknowledge their sacrifice, bravery, and unwavering commitment as patriots. Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced from and after the earliest period allowed by law passed this day, this 9th day of November 2020.
Thank you. And I think it goes without saying, congratulations to the City of Mason for becoming a Purple Heart City.
I'd just like to say a few words relative to Purple Heart City and the gentlemen that are up here and those Purple Heart recipients who are in the audience. It is an honor to be recognized as those combat wounded warriors. This is not an honor that we sought. It was not something that we strived for, but it was a necessary evil. And so somebody said tonight, we wrote that check a long time ago, payable upon returning home, receiving a Purple Heart, or being killed in action. And that was a decision that we made. And as I look out over the audience today and at the reception out there, the purple, the sea of purple, it just warms our hearts to see so many people that recognize the Purple Heart, the way it was awarded, and the fact that we are still warriors. And so with that being said, again, thank you. And our honor guard, the Military Order of the Purple Heart, Department of Ohio, congratulates you and thanks you for allowing us to be here with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was just marvelous. Thank you so much for this honor.
What we would like to do now is there's a photo op that anybody wants to have. If we could get the city council members up here, we'd love to have a photo of all of you together with us. And anyone from the audience who are Purple Heart recipients who want to be involved in this, we can do that as well. So. We'll hold this up here, Mayor.
I need your guidance.
Oh, you're welcome. Are we? Can we get a back row? A little bit more. All right. Oh, yeah. My long eyelashes. Anybody else? Oh, right there. Feels funny, I'm smiling, but I can't tell. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. We
So glad you're here.
You're welcome. We have one more thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not trying to take up a whole lot of time, but we've got something else in store for you this evening. So I'm going to take about 10 minutes. So we'd like to conduct that right now. So, Mayor, you all may have a seat.
Okay. You should keep that because they won't be able to catch you up.
Oh, okay.
So.
All right.
Then she left you with it.
Yeah. All right. Buglers. Ready? Post. Detail. About haste. Prepare to retrieve the colors. John. Yeah, Purple Heart. Ready? Retrieve. Left face. Hook. And a half step. Forward. Hook. Left. 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 I don't know. Hard left. I don't know. Hard left. Left. Right. Left. I love this. Left. I don't know. Hard left. I don't know. Hard left. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing. Is he down there? Okay. Detail. Order. You may be seated. Just want to say one more thing. Thank you so much. God bless the city of Mason. God bless our troops. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out this evening. Thank you, Bruce.
Council, I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading of Resolution 2020.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
A motion to adopt?
So moved.
Thank you. Any council discussion? We thank you all so much. It has been such an honor to have you here. A special thanks to Roger Heron and John Looker. We want to recognize you for all of the work and dedication that you have poured into this honor to make Mason a Purple Heart City. So we're very grateful. And so I think at this time, if no one else from council has any comments, we can call the roll.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb, Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance.
Yes.
Item 6 on the agenda is minutes. We need a motion to approve the minutes from the October 26th council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Moving on, we have the city manager's report, item 7 on the agenda.
Mayor, I actually have quite a number of items on the manager's report. So if council, and we do have some guests here, specific to an item on the agenda, Ordinance 2020-106. If council's willing, I'd suggest that you move that item up now. Following that, I can finish the manager's report.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a first by member Nelson, a second by council member Chance. Do we need to call the roll for that? No, I think we're all in favor. All right, okay. Forgive me, I was getting situated. That's item ordinance 2020-106. Are you ready? It seems like the audio in general is a little low in here. Can everybody hear in the back? Just in case it's a little low for everyone else. Okay, I think we're ready. I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Jeff?
authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for participation in the Regional Economic Development Initiative, Ready Cincinnati, in an amount not to exceed $50,000 per year.
Eric.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance is an opportunity for the city to continue our track record as a leader in the region in economic development. I would like to ask Michelle Blair to describe the ordinance and introduce our guests.
Thank you, Eric. Good evening, Mayor, Council. It's an honor to be with everybody tonight. What a beautiful ceremony. We do have some additional distinguished guests with us. To my right, Brian Hodgett. Many of you know Brian. He's the Vice President of State Government and Community Government Relations for Procter & Gamble. Also, we have Dieter Moeller, who is the President and CEO of Rheinstahl, and you all know Dieter well. And then also just behind him, we have Kim Lauterbach, and Kim is the President and CEO of Ready Cincinnati, also someone that maybe many of you know pretty well. This evening, we do have an ordinance. It's a little bit high for me here. An ordinance that addresses the City of Mason's partnership with Ready Cincinnati. Prior to Ready Cincinnati, we participated in something called the Cincinnati USA Partnership beginning in 2000 at a leadership level that helped make global decisions and national decisions on economic development for the Cincinnati region. And the City of Mason has benefited from a very strong partnership in a rich, diverse, industrial manufacturing, biohealth, advanced manufacturing community as a result of those strong relationships. In 2014, Ready became the Regional Economic Development Organization, and since that time, we've also participated at a significant investment level that has lent the City of Mason's arm to making some of those economic development decisions. Economic Development Committee met about this, and tonight we're going to have our guests say a little bit more about the benefits of that partnership. So Brian, I'll turn it over to you.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Michelle, and thank you for having me. I see some faces that I know very well and some new faces that I hope to get to know in the coming months as we get back to normal and start meeting and doing things like that. As Michelle said, my name is Brian Hodgett. I'm the Vice President of Community Relations and Government Relations for Procter & Gamble. I want to thank you guys, City of Mason, for your leadership in the economic development area and the partnership that you've shown for the last 20 years in economic development broadly, but specifically since 2014 when we founded and pulled Ready out and created a standalone organization. You guys have been leaders in the region, really, in terms of cities of your size or cities getting involved, municipalities getting involved with this. It's important. The work you guys are doing up here is important, and Procter & Gamble, as the largest private funder of Ready, appreciates all that you're doing over there. Quick update on what's going on down the street. I'm sure you guys have all seen, we've done some things over there. It is now complete. It is now the largest R&D center in the world for Procter & Gamble. We doubled our employment. We have nearly 3,000 employees there now. We invested nearly $400 million in doing that. Here's your fun fact of the day. We used, let me get this right, exactly how much steel. I don't even know, 8,700 tons of steel, which is approximately 90% of what was used in the Eiffel Tower. So that's a lot of steel that went in over there. So obviously we're committed to not only Cincinnati downtown and our general offices in downtown Cincinnati, but the campus here in Mason is growing, and we're committed to this region. It's the reason we got involved in the partnership before and the reason we got involved with Ready. It's important. We can do all we can do and bring world-class innovation and research and development there, but we need our supply chain. We need people around to help support those industries, and having partners like the City of Mason do that really helps in those efforts. I can give you a little bit of the metrics, or Dieter can give you a little bit of the metrics, but you know, in 2019 alone, there was almost 6,500 jobs that Ready was responsible for bringing in, about almost $500 million in new capital expansion. That did not include what we did down the street. Mason's numbers in that time were very similar, and I think it's a testament to not only the work that Ready's doing, but the partnership that Michelle has with Kim and her staff. Having Dieter on the executive committee of Ready, I'm the immediate past chair of Ready and currently on the executive committee. His counsel and his advice as a representative of Mason has been very important in all the things that we've been doing over the last couple of years. So I'm going to stop there because I could go on, but the main message is we're here. We find this important. We appreciate the work that the city of Mason has done. And we look forward to continuing that partnership as we go on. And do I turn it over to Dieter or? And thank you again.
I'll move it up a little. There we go. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Brian. And thank you for the opportunity, Mayor and Council, to come before you, because it's an amazing story what's going on. We've talked about it many times, and we all see it when we drive around the city, all the amazing things that are going on with these private-public partnerships. And I think Ready Cincinnati is one of those private-public partnerships that has been extremely successful. When you take a look at how things are perceived on a national basis, Ready Cincinnati is ranked in one of the top few cities in the United States by the Site Selectors magazine, and the site selecting group of people out there. Those are the people that are hired by companies all over the United States to figure out where are we putting our next facility. And what Ready's done, and it's done really well, is it's allowed Cincinnati to be put on a map in a big way. And when you're taking a look at what's going on in, I'm not used to this anymore. When you take a look at what's going on out there, it really is amazing how much that presence is important to the people that are making decisions. As a part of the Ready Executive Council, I've been a part of a lot of the functions and just seen what's going on. And Mason has had a very strong presence there. And it's made me think about, you know, for the last 10 years, I've watched it with this city and have said it, this city has always led the way when it comes to working together and being business friendly. And Ready has that same feeling and its same charter, and it shows as far as the success we have. And I think it's just critically important. And I've watched it happen. You know, you see that with Kim, you see that with Brian, the people that are a part of the Mason community that interact with Ready and interact with these site selection people all over the world. I think, Kim, we went in Paris at the air show, and it's just, it's wonderful to see the presence that we're getting as a city. So, you know, just bottom line, as a leader, Mason is interacting with organizations such as Ready Cincinnati. And I think it's just really important for Mason to continue that approach. And it gets harder. You know, it's one thing to get to the top, and Mason over the last few decades has done that. It's harder to stay at the top than it is to get to the top. And staying a place that's attractive to business and considered one of the best places in the United States to live and one of the best places in the United States to work means being involved in these private-public collaboratives like Ready Cincinnati. And I think it's just an important vehicle for what we're all trying to do and what we all know about Mason. I think one of the things that we got to make sure is we're getting the word out. Too many times we've talked about it over the years. Mason's a very great secret out there. We've got to keep getting that word out and make it more and more known within the city, within the region, the state, and the entire community. I mean, the entire nation. And Ready Cincinnati is a great vehicle for making it happen. So just want to thank you guys for all your support of Ready Cincinnati over the years, and look forward to keeping that going. And I hate these masks.
Thank you, Dieter.
Thanks, Michelle.
Does council have any questions for Dieter or for Brian or for Kim? Comments? Or for me?
I have a comment. Did you get a copy of this magazine?
Do not
This
have a copy of that.
features
since
a young lady in our audience. I hope
yes,
I'm not
thanks.
embarrassing you, but she's one of the top 300 business leaders, most powerful business leaders in Cincinnati, Kim Lauterbach, who is the director, president, and CEO of Ready Cincinnati. And she's here in our audience. She's a Mason resident, formerly worked for Warren County, correct? Yeah, so she's right here, and I'm going to give this to you so that you have it. And there are a lot of Mason business leaders in this magazine, by the way. So, oh, thank you. And now we get to see you too. There you go. Thank you. Yes. Congratulations on that honor, by the way. Ready Cincinnati is an important economic engine generator, a facilitator, a catalyst in our region. Any comments from council? Yes.
Yeah, I always say it. I echo what all three of you said, and especially Michelle. You know, I point to our economic development team and staff. I think it's probably about as good as you can get in the country. And so, Michelle, thank you for your leadership there. You know, when we talk about private-public partnerships, I think that's an absolute key. Because as much as we like to stand up here and think the government sometimes has the answers, we know we don't. And getting us out of the way with these type of partnerships is absolutely crucial for us to continue the growth that we have had. I mean, I love going to sometimes the county commissioner meetings and understanding the stats they give for the county, and then Mason makes up about 90 to 93% of the economic development going on. So, and I know that's through these type of partnerships. So thank you for continuing to forge these relationships. And I've been up here for 5 years now, and we've been supportive of Ready all my 5 years, and I look forward to continuing that. So thanks again, Michelle, and thanks everybody from Ready tonight. Good seeing you again, Ryan.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Oh, and Kim, congratulations on that big power movement too. That is really cool.
Right. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? A motion to adopt?
So moved.
Any council discussion? Before I forget, I would like to thank again Mr. Hodgett and Mr. Moeller for coming in to be recognized as well. Thank you for sharing for all you do with Ready, with the City of Mason, and with your own industries. We appreciate it. Anything else? All right, let's call the roll.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Guild,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we're ready for the city manager's report. We've got lots going on tonight.
Wasn't appropriate before, but for our guests in the audience, Jennifer has our own City of Mason version of Purple Heart Challenger coins. So we'd like to distribute those to anyone that would like one now. Dieter, Brian, talking about you. Please, anyone in the audience, maybe we can set some of these in the back. Would like to just memorialize this day by making sure everyone has one of those. And that's also an opportunity that anyone would like to leave. Manager's report. Thanksgiving is coming. City offices will be closed on Thursday, November 26th and Friday, November 27th. But the community center will be open. Limited hours on Thanksgiving Day, 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. But then it will resume normal operating hours on that weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That regularly scheduled second meeting in November is also the week of Thanksgiving. I'm aware of at least some scheduling conflicts. At this point, staff is focusing attention on the 2021 budget. We are a bit behind on that given the year we've had and confluence of year-end events. That will require a pretty aggressive schedule of finance committee meetings in order to have that ready to be adopted at the December 14th council meeting. That being said, I do not anticipate any legislation will be needed at that November 23rd meeting. I know that there is interest in a work session being scheduled potentially next week. All that being said, a motion canceling the November 23rd regular meeting would be appropriate.
Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? I would like to make a trade for that work session, but I'm okay with it. So we're looking at the week of the 16th, which is next Monday. And so Eric will be in touch to help set that up, or are we all good with Monday, the 16th?
I will not be here. I'll be traveling, so.
I'm unavailable as well, Mayor.
Okay, are you available any other day next week?
We're going out of town the week after that. So no.
Oh, next week. Okay. All right. Well, we'll be in touch. We're going to work something out. Next week, yes. Not the week of Thanksgiving. Okay. All right. We'll figure something out and we won't keep everybody waiting.
All right.
Thank you.
A couple of other events want to go through. The Maid Chamber is hosting the Beacons of Resilience Awards Night. That'll be on Thursday, December 3rd at 6 p.m. Please let my office know if you plan to attend. The Area Progress Council's Economic Outlook Breakfast is going to be Tuesday, November 24th from 7 a.m. to 9:45 a.m. And again, please let us know if you're interested in attending that. Just an update, as we have now sent out last week, the second wave of the Mason gift cards. Almost 8,500 gift cards were sent out via email to sewer customers in the city of Mason. Those are $50 gift cards as part of the city's small business recovery. They are good at currently 76 Mason businesses are participating, and they will expire March 31st. We're encouraging folks to make sure and get those and use those to help support Mason businesses through the holidays. But also a reminder that the gift card the city does uses a platform that's available to individuals as well. So as you're considering your holiday shopping, anyone, and residency is not required, can buy a gift card, and that can go to anyone, friends, family. They don't need to live in the city, but allows them to use that gift card at local Mason businesses. So you can go on, buy one of those or buy several of them and use that as part of your holiday gift giving. Similarly, Mason businesses that are continue to be interested in joining that program, being eligible for use of those gift cards, can do so by visiting the city's website. It's a fairly easy process. The only requirement is to be a Mason business. Another update, and this is probably about a month ago, actually at a council meeting, had issued a challenge to echo a challenge that the local Mason Challenger League was making to go online and vote, and to vote repeatedly to help qualify the city for a grant sponsored by State Farm Insurance for the Field of Dreams at McKeno Park. That's an inclusive field that is the next ambition to be built at McKeno Park. 2,000 applications were received. That was then narrowed down to 200, I believe. And the top vote getters received a $25,000 grant. The city residents, council, community came through. We were one of the top vote getters. And so thanks to the Mason Challenger League, we qualified for a $25,000 neighborhood assist grant. So congratulations to the community. The city is partnering with Warren County for a Christmas lights recycling program. There will be bins available at the community center for any old or unwanted Christmas lights that can be recycled by dropping them off there. The city is also again this year partnering with Mason Schools and the community for the Mason Cares program. There will be donation bins. City departments and employees participate by assisting families in need during the holidays. Everything from donating items to adopting families that may need extra assistance over the holidays. On Wednesday, December 2nd, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. will be the Shop Local event at the Community Center. That features local Mason area merchants and representatives that sell gift items. This year's event will be held in the gym to make it more comfortable for folks, to allow more social distancing, but the event will continue. That has proven very popular in the community. Also popular in the community and going on this year is the annual tree lighting ceremony. That will be held on Friday, December 4th at the Plaza in downtown Mason. The event is free, open to the public. The lighting ceremony takes place at 6:30 p.m. There will also be events similar to past years: music, photos by the tree, iceless ice skating, train rides for children, food, beverages. The city's DORA, designated outdoor refreshment area, will be available so that adult beverages can be purchased. And the 2020 Christmas and Mason calendars will also be available that highlight events throughout the month, including the Santa in Your Neighborhood program, which will be Saturday, December 12th. Santa is not letting COVID impact his route. He will be visiting the city of Mason on December 12th making his way through the city at about 6 locations, stopping to visit children, take pictures. That will occur between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. again on Saturday, December 12th. The annual Hanukkah celebration and menorah lighting will occur on Tuesday, December 15th at 5:30 p.m. This year it is described as a drive-in event. Folks interested can get details through the Jewish Discovery Center. Council is encouraged to participate in that event. Also, this holiday season, there is several virtual holiday recognition events. Details are on the webpage, both for decorating both cookies and your house with Christmas lights, taking photos of them, submitting them online to be eligible for Come Together Mason e-gift cards as the prizes of the community. So an opportunity to participate there. I believe last are 2 items, 2 liquor permits that council can request a hearing or not request a hearing via motion. The first is for Nishi Liquor LLC, doing business as Lou's Pony Keg. That's a C1, C2, D6, which is beer only in original sealed containers for carryout until 1 a.m. Wine and certain prepackaged mixed drinks in sealed containers for carryout only until 1 a.m. And sale of intoxicating liquor on Sunday between the hours of 1 p.m. and midnight. Council may request a hearing or not request a hearing via motion.
I'll make a motion to not request a hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed?
Next is a second liquor permit to United Dairy Farmers, Inc., doing business as United Dairy Farmers 175. It is for a new liquor permit C1, C2, which is beer only in original sealed containers for carryout only until 1 a.m. Wine and certain prepackaged mixed drinks in sealed containers for carryout only until 1 a.m. Similarly, council can request a hearing or not via motion.
I'll make a motion not to request a hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for your patience. I think that's everything I had.
That was the doozy. All right. Next item on the agenda is recognition of visitors. We do have a visitor from Warren County here today. Are there any visitors on the online queue? Okay. Okay. And those of you here in this space, are there any who want to be recognized as visitors in the first round? It'd be helpful to see your hand. Okay, we have Commissioner Grossman is here to present in his official capacity. He's going to talk to us about some CARES Act programs going on in Warren County. We talked about that a couple weeks ago here, and I was not prepared. I did not have good answers. So since he was here for the ceremony, I asked if he wouldn't mind sharing some things that are going on at the county that will affect local businesses. Go ahead and to the podium, state your name and address.
First off, it's always fun to come back here. Some of you may know I was on council for 11 years, but I've been gone almost 6 years since that. But so many familiar faces are still with us, and it's enjoyable to be here. Other than ceremonies and some social or other events, in the 6 years I've been gone, I think I've been to 1 planning commission meeting, 1 public hearing, and 1 work session of council. And other than that, you guys have all been having fun here. And so I wanted to come to you tonight. We're ending, but I think I want to extend it, but I want you to know about what Warren County has been doing with our COVID relief program. And I'm going to set that forth to you. And because tomorrow morning we have a meeting where I am going to try to expand the application period or reopen the application period. I want to tell you about it. And if you know anyone or you can get further information to them, I'm requesting that you do so. But I'm going to explain our program and what we've done and what has already happened so that you're aware of it. So in August and September, we started looking at how we could use CARES Act money that ultimately the federal government had given to Ohio and then was distributing to local communities and jurisdictions, of which Mason received some CARES Act money, which you all spent. And it was for specific purposes that you can use these sums. Of course, there was a first tranche of this money that ultimately there was a much larger amount of money that came to us in October, and we expanded our program. But here's essentially, I'm going to explain to you what our program entailed. So we have our program details were as follows. We set up a program that included $2,170,000 that we encumbered for a relief program. Now, interestingly enough, we went out and we started looking at what other counties were doing, what other jurisdictions were doing, what other cities were doing. And lo and behold, you did something larger than we're doing. In fact, we discovered that Mason's program was the largest in Ohio per capita, and it's larger than what we're doing. So I was surprised to learn how extensive your program already is. And one of the things that we tried to do as a result of that was we wanted to make sure that we were covering all the other parts of the county. But of course, we also included Mason, which I'm going to describe to you tonight, because Mason businesses, Mason and the Mason zip code are the largest number of businesses that have applied for our program as well. That program includes, and we decided we needed to have a large application period. We went out with an application period that started on October 1 and went through October 31st. And I'm going to try to reopen that period for another week tomorrow, because we have to encumber everything. We have to get it all encumbered and distributed by the 20th of November. So that's an important detail with regard to this. And then if the money is not all spent and used, we will unencumber it. And in fact, at that point, jurisdictions that have used all the CARES Act money they received will receive a split of the money that we do not use. And that will include Mason. So with regard to that, we determined that $700,000 will be used for small businesses with 50 or fewer full-time employees. We also realized that there are a lot of nonprofits who are not being helped, and we opened up a program of $700,000 for nonprofits as well, with 50 or fewer full-time employees. We also allocated $700,000 for child care providers, both center-based providers and type B in-home providers. And we allocated $50,000 for volunteer-based nonprofit organizations and $20,000 for grant administration through the Small Business Development Alliance. Our program goals were to aid qualifying small businesses, nonprofits, and child care providers to help them during the COVID-19 pandemic and to help them come out of the pandemic and get back to work, and to help them with the adverse consequences of the pandemic. We wanted to focus aid on mortgage rent payments, utilities, payroll, and other vital expenses of those organizations. To assist these businesses and organizations, specifically, we wanted to help them return to normal operation after the pandemic. The result of our program application is this. We have 137 applications have been received. That includes 101 small businesses, 13 nonprofits, 19 child care providers, and 4 volunteer-based nonprofits. The small business applications have amounted to a total of almost $600,000. So almost the entire amount we allocated will be distributed. But we still have over $100,000 left, and that's why I want to reopen up the application process. And surprisingly, I don't know if this should be surprisingly or not, but of the nonprofits areas, and there's lots of nonprofits, only $70,000 has been applied for out of $700,000. With regard to child care providers, only $182,500 has been applied for. So we have over $500,000 still available. So, and then I won't talk about the others, but the fact is there's a very significant amount that's still available through us. So if you know someone, we went out to all the chambers, all the people in the community. we found out who Mason had been informing. We informed the same people. And in that regard, I think that it's helpful for you to know something about what happened to Mason, since this is Mason. Of those companies that I mentioned, of over 100, or of the companies, the small business that I mentioned that have applied, 61 are from the Mason zip code. 61. Of those, 32 participated in at least one of Mason's programs that you passed. Some participated in more than one of the programs. As far as we know, 29 Mason zip code companies did not apply for or receive any aid in the Mason programs, but they're seeking aid in our programs. And one of the things, Michelle Blair, by the way, very helpfully sent us a lot of information so we could understand what was going on. And because of this, we are going to seek tomorrow to take one more week to try to reopen the application period so that people could come back in to apply for the money that has not yet been allocated. But to the extent that allocations are not made, as I said, we will unencumber the money and then it will be distributed to the cities or jurisdictions. And I think that there are six cities and one township that have used all their CARES Act money, and therefore those 7 jurisdictions will receive the amount that we unencumbered and still is left over, which would include Mason. Again, we really appreciate all that Mason has done. Obviously, being from Mason and formerly being on council, I appreciate very much. And I know we heard from many people who told us how thankful they were for what Mason did for them. And they thought that because of that, they might not be able to receive what we were doing. And we told them, no, that's not true. But while we wanted to make sure that other people who had not yet been helped were favored in the sense that we wanted to make sure that they had available to it, because there weren't enough applications for all the money, we're going to be able to give sums to every single Mason company that applied, every single one. And that includes, most of them will receive $5,000. Some of them will receive $10,000. So I know that this has been a very difficult time for all of us in government and for all of the small businesses who have been impacted by this. But I'm very pleased to announce the programs that we're doing, and I'm very pleased at what Mason did, which, as I said, we found out was the most significant per capita. I believe, I don't know, Eric, if you've done any work on this, but everything we had said that Mason's programs were the largest per capita in the nation. Did you take a look at any of the data on that?
Yes, when we looked at it a couple of months ago, ours was by far the largest. There's been a lot of developments. Yeah, I'm sure there will be another sweep at the data early in the year as all these programs are rolled out.
Mason was also one of the earlier programs too that came out of among jurisdictions, but you're very blessed to have a council such as this that did what you did. And we in Warren County are very blessed. One of the things too about Warren County, and I'll just tell you just a little bit about this and then leave here. But Warren County still has a $12 million surplus of funds because we have very conservative way in which we fund and how we deal with the public fund and the public monies. And we've not furloughed anyone. We've not laid off anyone. We had a bit of a hiring freeze, but we've kept everybody employed. And what you might not know is that about 50% of our revenue comes from sales tax. And there's lots of jurisdictions and counties in Ohio that have been severely impacted by this pandemic. But in Warren County, our sales tax revenue has actually increased over last year, which has been amazing to us. And do you know what has been the big boom that has created that? Has been car sales. I'm not sure what it is about this pandemic that related to car sales, but somehow that happened. So in any event, do any of you have any questions about our programs and what we've been doing to try to communicate about them?
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Commissioner Frishman. Thank you for your information. You said $5,000 you're giving to businesses that apply. Are they grants, forgivable loans? How's your program structured?
Yeah, well, they are grants. This is federal money.
Okay.
And so we felt that we had to do, because it was coming from the federal government, we felt that we needed to do a grant program. So there are grant programs, although I will get you the application criteria, because there's very specific application criteria that they have to meet, and some people don't meet it. But like I say, I believe that all 61 of the Mason zip code businesses have met the criteria and will be awarded the full amount. And there's different levels. So it's based upon the size, their payroll, the number of employees, as to whether they get a $5,000 amount or a $10,000 amount. But there's a significant number of Mason businesses that will receive $5,000 and some $10,000. Yeah, and I'll provide to the city staff our application criteria, because again, I'm going to attempt tomorrow morning to open up the period for one more week. That's all we have is one more week. And with regard to the small business aspect, we still have $100,000 that we can distribute to those who apply and meet our criteria. Any other?
Mayor. Commissioner, thank you for coming today to talk about this. I do have a couple questions. So November 20th is our deadline, as well as yours, to encumber the funds. So we're getting kind of close to that deadline. I don't think as of today, Mason has all the funds encumbered. Is that correct, as of today?
Our analysis was that everything had been.
It is? Okay. So,
Encumbered everything that we are scheduled to receive.
okay. So that's great. So how are you going to distribute those funds? Are you going to use like a per capita formula like the state did?
I believe it's on a per capita basis, and I will get that information to you, but it's so I think it's based on your population. And then, and what we're going to have to, we have to unencumber the money. We've encumbered everything we have. All right. So we've encumbered it all, and that was because of the deadlines, because of what we were trying to accomplish. But we also knew that if we did not get all of this money distributed, we were going to unencumber it so that then would be redistributed to the cities that had spent all of their money or encumbered all of their money. And I believe that includes Mason. I looked at this data today, which is why I knew the answer to your question. So Mason is one of the cities that's encumbered everything. Lebanon has done it. Franklin has done it. I think Springboro has done it. I think Clear Creek Township has done it, the only township. There's numbers that have not spent everything, but I think there are, as of, there still could be more that within the next week that do this. But right now, I believe there are 6 cities in Warren County and 1 township that have encumbered everything.
Okay, so we should be expecting like in approximately a week or so.
In a week, you'll know what we unencumber for distribution to you, and then you'll know how much money you're getting. And Mason, if the funds stay at this level, Mason should get significant amount of money from these sums.
So we are going to probably want to make sure that we have, because if we don't have it encumbered by November 20th, we have to give it back to the state. And so we probably want to have, a list of where that money is going to go so that we're ready to encumber it so we don't have to give it back.
I think that all you have to do is encumber, but you don't know how. You have to be spent. The money has to be spent by the end of December.
Yeah, December 30th.
It has to be encumbered by a certain date. And I believe that after we
November 20th.
unencumber it, then you guys will receive it and we will have it. But I think that maybe the only restriction is that you have to spend it by the end of December. Eric, do you know that?
Yeah,
I'm not sure how the timing on the excess excess distribution in the city being encumbered. As I referenced the budget process and the confluence of events, yes, we have the encumbrance for all we're scheduled to receive. We also have expenses in addition to that line that have been incurred. We don't know how much money will be available. We have the expenses lined up, waiting to know how much can be reimbursed.
Great, okay. Yeah, because we have till November 20th to encumber it, December 30th to spend it. Great, that's great news for Mason and all the other localities. So we appreciate it, Warren County, for giving some money back to us.
Well, I can't tell you that that's exactly what's going to occur until we finally know the figures. Sure. But I'm going to mention something else about Mason that you might be interested in. You had a voucher program that was run by your Community Development Corporation that is related to your chamber. With regard to that program, 49 of the companies who were recipients under that program, I believe there were 49 companies, 9 of them are receiving benefits from our program. You also had a service agreement program through your Community Investment Corporation. You had 47 companies that received aid through Mason. With regard to those companies, 14 have applied for and receive aid in Warren County as well. Then you had a forgivable loan program. You had 69 companies in Mason that were given forgivable loans under your program. Our CARES Act program has 21 of those companies will also receive aid under Warren County's program. And then the Come Together Mason program included 76 companies in Mason, and of those, 19 of those companies will receive money under the Warren County program.
One more question, Mayor. Is there a way that I can look at the list of companies? I guess I'm concerned if there's some Mason businesses that aren't aware that Warren County is giving this out. I'd like to contact them to, make sure that they.
With that, that's one of the reasons I came tonight, Diana, and we collated that information today. I requested that before I came to this meeting, and we will provide that we have that documented in a list, and I'll give you that information.
Okay, great. And where can the businesses go to apply for this?
Well, remember, the application process ended on October 31. We did it for a 31-day period to give people plenty of time. But because we have still some left over, I'm going to move to open up the application period for 6 days or 1 more week, because we have to do it all by the 20th. And if that happens, but I will provide to Eric all the information. I believe that you already have this, Eric.
I was going to say, when the county program began, the city posted on our website and then emailed to all the participants and programs we were involved with the information. If the county extends that deadline, we would want to know that we can then duplicate the same message that went out to the folks we interacted with.
So when are you going to do this?
Tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Our meeting is at 9 o'clock tomorrow, and we have a number of things on our agenda before this, but I am bringing it up to open it up again. I talked to our economic development people today as I was preparing this presentation and getting the information for it. And I was asking them about what was still left over. They've been monitoring me every week with regard to this. In the first week or two, it took some time for this to happen. There were only 2 companies in Mason that applied in the first week or 10 days, which surprised me. And then ultimately we had 61 companies, which is by far and away the largest participation of companies, which interestingly, ironically, is the most aggressive city in the country to have a program. And your people, though, apparently were very attuned to this, and they ultimately made application. I'm not sure how that happened or why that happened. Maybe it's because the city did a really good job of telling us how to communicate with people. But nevertheless, there was a lot of application and there was a lot of overlap. And what I can tell you is in the communication from these folks, number one, they praised to high heaven all of you for what you did. And second, they were very thankful that the program was going to be available to them, even though they'd already received sums from you all.
Great. Do you think tomorrow morning you can email me where they can go? I'm assuming it's your website.
I don't know what your email address is, but if you give it to me tonight or get it to Eric to get to me, then I will make sure that you're communicated with.
Okay, great. That's wonderful news. Thank you.
If I could unencumbering and encumbering, I think there was some confusion about the November 20th. County has to, if you unencumber some.
We encumber it for purposes of our spending the money and distributing it. But when it is no longer used, we're going to under-encumber it. And I believe that that's all we have to do in order for it to be distributed to you. Because I think under state law, because this is all being pursuant to state law, I believe that once we unencumber it, it automatically gets distributed to every city and jurisdiction in Warren County that has encumbered and used all of the money they received. I believe that's how it works. But I'll find that out to clarify that.
Encumber it by November 20th.
I don't believe you do, no.
Spend it back.
No, you need to have it spent by December 31st.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We do need to encumber it by November 20th.
That's my question.
Yes.
Well, I'll find out because my understanding was that that's true of the money that you were distributed, but I'm not sure that that's true of the amount of money the county was distributed. Those are two different things. So that's what I have to check on, Diane, and I'll do that. So Member Nelson, I'll find out about that, but my understanding was that once we don't use the money, we will unencumber it, and then it automatically goes to the cities and jurisdictions in the county that have encumbered already all the funds they specifically received. And it will be split, I believe, as you asked, on a per capita basis. I'll find out about that, and I'll make sure that I know the answer to that question tomorrow morning, and I'll communicate with you on it.
Can you double check to make sure? Because what I don't want to happen is I know the extra funds were supposed to go back to the state of Ohio, and then the state of Ohio would redistribute it. Just double check to make sure that, because I would hate for Warren County to unencumber it and then legally the state would take it.
Our intent is to do it in a manner that it goes to you all. That means everybody that's used their funds, and that it will not be going back to the state. So that's our plans. So I'll make sure that that happens.
Great.
I'll make sure that the timing works so that you can do whatever you need to do.
If I can just add, like I mentioned, the city is ready. We're still qualifying them. I don't know the details on the encumbrance dates, but it may be a bit moot because we're tabulating costs we've already incurred. So they're already expensed. It's just eligible for reimbursement to an amount that we don't know what that number will be yet. So we're working towards that. So once the date occurs, we'll be ready.
So Mayor, the encumbering process, is that a city staff process, or is there some action of council that needs to occur to encumber it?
No action from council. I think the devil in the details here is if the city were to incur a new cost. So say we were going to buy a lot more hand sanitizer to make something up, that would need to be encumbered before November 20th. We've already incurred the cost. It's now qualifying them for the reimbursement that could be available, much like we've done with the amounts that have already received. So I don't know that an encumbrance, unless it were a high dollar amount like that, I believe we're comfortable that we'll have enough to qualify. We'll have expenses beyond what will be available.
We'll make sure you find out. You know, what's interesting is that the participation of Mason has been extremely high with this program. And we thought, I mean, Mason's program that you already passed of $2.2 million was 22 times larger than the other city, Springboro, which had a $100,000 program, and 4 times larger than Lebanon's program. But the representation in those communities was not as great. Which surprised me. I thought that there would be a lot more participation in those jurisdictions where there was a much, much, much smaller program, but that's not true. Mason has already been an active participant, but you all know you've got many more companies. You've got a lot more smaller companies and other people in this jurisdiction. So make sure that we get that information out to them. And that's why I wanted in part to come tonight. In addition that I have a special place in my heart for this jurisdiction, but we wanted to be fair to everyone. So we opened it up for enough time, but we've had several people who have come and applied that we cut off because they came after the application period of October 31st. But I'm going to try to open it up to get money so they can apply as well and receive funds. So again, thank you so much for your attention tonight. And I will tell you, as with the overlap, a lot of the companies did overlap, and they were very grateful, not only for your program, but that we would include them in our program as well.
Thank you. I'm sorry we didn't have you come to our last meetings or before the deadline closed. I just didn't know. So I'm glad you came to fill us in. And let's hope that Commissioner Young and Commissioner Jones are okay with extending the application period a few more days and that we get a lot more applicants. Thank you very much.
Probably, although we haven't talked to them about that.
Yeah.
The fact is that there's no reason for these companies or other small businesses or even nonprofits. And this is the thing, I think that nonprofits do not realize how nice of a benefit this is to them. I thought that churches who have been really hurt with their giving and during this period, we've had a number of churches that have applied In fact, the church that I used to attend and was an elder on applied, but there's a lot of churches that haven't applied, but they can apply as well. Your churches can apply. They've been very hurt to make sure you inform them that this is available to them. I think that's one of the areas that I was most surprised, because I remember I reported the dollar amounts. It's the nonprofits where it's a very low amount. That's the smallest amount of participation is from nonprofits.
Wow. Yeah, we've got to get the word out. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much for coming and informing us today.
I am happy to hear you're including nonprofits. That's good. And I think being able to get the word out to them is crucial, because they don't typically plug into like your business community per se. So any way that you can do that, I'd definitely highly recommend that. And I think that's great that we are stepping in and helping nonprofits.
Well,
So
remember, Chance, this is why we allocated $700,000 for small business for profit. And we allocated $700,000 for nonprofits precisely because we knew that they were not being aided with these other programs. And we knew how hurt they were. And so we wanted to make sure that they were included, but for some reason, either they don't know about the program or they're the types that don't feel they need it. But so we are opening up to nonprofits, and we've given to many nonprofits, but that is there's a large significant amount we specifically allocated that's not been used. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we may have another visitor in the online queue. Is that still the case? Thank you.
Yes, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Randy Stegbauer has indicated he wishes to address council.
Okay.
If you would like to go ahead and address council.
Hello, this is Randy Stegbauer from 5358 Hidden Creek Circle. First a question. My wife was talking to a Mason apartment dweller today, and she mentioned that we got one of those wonderful $50 Yifty gift cards, but our friend said that she didn't get one, and my wife was wondering why. And I'm assuming that it's simply because that in some cases anyway, the apartment renters don't have a water bill, and so that would kind of prevent them from taking advantage of the wonderful program. And I was wondering, and she was wondering too, you know, if there was a way for us to include them somehow. I know that would be hard since we're using it through the water bill and everything, but it's just something for you to think about. So at the end of the last meeting, Mr. Hackey spoke and agreed with Vice Mayor Gilb's positive message. And I thought that was, you know, I loved hearing what Vice Mayor Gilb said, myself as well. Mr. Hackey then went on asking how the mayor could write the report. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to bring up the report again. I'm not going to drop this yet. Write the report calling out the residents and the businesses. After he finished, the Councilman Hunterlaw asked him why he was making the comments and asked, you know, when the comments are going to stop. And Mr. Hackey replied back that he would stop when he felt like a response was no longer necessary, which seems reasonable to me. And then, you know, they both kind of went back and forth, and they both agreed to drop it that evening. And then at the very end of the meeting, Mayor Grossman mentioned that she's still working on the report's appendix. And I'd like to suggest that publishing that appendix isn't dropping it. Not that you were part of that agreement or anything. And earlier, the mayor responded to Mr. Hackey's comments with this quote: "When you come in with characterizations like that, it's just not helpful." And that's a quote. And my question to you then, Mayor, is that do you believe that the characterizations in your report and its appendix, when it gets published, are helpful? While I understand that you feel that your report and the appendix are simply facts, I'm also confident that the residents mentioned in the report may not feel the same way. I'm certain that the appendix will force a response In other words, it'll be the exact opposite what Mr. Hunterlaw and Mr. Hackey were discussing in the middle of the meeting. What do you think is going to happen when you publish the appendix? You mentioned earlier this year, you mentioned that all the media coverage is negative. I think that recently there's been many things happening here in Mason to be proud of. The new Mason Arts Center, being named the Purple Heart City. I'm sorry that I didn't get to hear that entire presentation, but it was touching the part that I did. That's tremendous honor for our city. The new Aquatic Center. And I believe that Mason was named high on some best place to live list again. Maybe not as high as it was a few years ago, but I seem to recall that. I'm sure you already know that too. And as well as, the report that the city manager published describing how all the money from the 2 ordinance were spent on all the local businesses. There's 5 things off the top of my head that I can think of that are good, that you can be proud of, and you can be publicizing and talking to everybody about. And like I said, I'm sure that there's others that I'm not aware of. I'm wondering, in the bottom line here is what I'm wondering is if your report can be removed from the record. I think that would be conciliatory to everyone involved, prove that you want to move forward instead of rehashing everything over and over again. And most importantly, show leadership. And my simple question there is that even possible to do? It may not even be, so I may be just tilting myself at windmills there, certainly. But anyway, that's everything that I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Any other visitors? Okay, let's move on to the business item of our agenda. Mr. Stegbauer, if you're still listening, I'll give you a call this week and I'll answer your questions. All right, we are ready for, I believe it's item 10, Ordinance 2020-95. We have a public hearing scheduled. Thank you for your patience. Let me open that up. And we will also have a second reading of Ordinance 2020-95. So we'll need that motion to read by title only.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Jeff?
Amending the zoning code and zoning map of the city of Mason, Ohio to provide for the rezoning of approximately 1.59 acres from HT1 high-tech light industrial to B PUD business planned unit development with approval of the concept planned unit development plan located between 4920 and 4834 Socialville Foster Road, White Blossom PUD.
Kurt.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. The subject property tonight is highlighted in red on this map with its current zoning being the HT1, that's the light blue zoning. This is on the north side of Socialville Foster Road, and it's just east of Mason Montgomery Road. This property is just over 1.5 acres, and as I said, it's zoned HT1. There is 3 lots in this development that's known as the Professional Center of White Blossom subdivision, and that is these 3 lots here. This kind of T-shaped lot in the back is lot 3 that's currently vacant. This lot here on the east side, lot 1, currently has a multi-tenant office medical building that's developed on the site, and then the subject property here highlighted is also vacant. The proposal is for a just over 6,200 square foot commercial retail building that includes that may include a drive-through or pickup window. There's 26 parking spaces shown on the concept plan, which may or may not be enough parking depending on the actual users of the site. At this time, they don't know the proposed uses other than that it'll be potentially commercial or retail. There is about 0.3 acres of open space on the site. Our PUD requirements require 20% open space. They're doing that with some open space, this green space to the north portion of the site. It is between two parking areas, and then the remainder of their open space is from these parking island areas that are generally not counted, but in this case are counted. This plan shows a future potential lot development for Lot 3. Again, that's vacant. This is the existing building on Lot 1, and then the proposed concept plan on Lot 2. The area in red is what is being proposed for rezoning tonight. 2 variances are being requested with this rezoning. One is the size of the PUD. Our requirements require PUDs to be a 5-acre minimum. And like I said, this is just over 1.5 acres. The second is that they have 1 pedestrian amenity. Our PUDs also require 2 pedestrian amenities. They have 1 pedestrian amenity, which is this park area here with is a sidewalk that connects the parking areas. Let's see. The comprehensive plan identifies this area as light industrial/industrial park, and the goal of that is to create employment concentrations along major thoroughfares with a campus-like environment that includes light industrial, light manufacturing, and wholesale distribution, as well as supportive services and retail amenities. This proposed development would constitute, potentially could be a retail amenity. The property does not appear large enough to support this intensity of what's being proposed. And with that, staff and planning commission feel that it's best to remain as high-tech, light industrial zoning. There is this existing building and 4 other parcels to the east of this that are all developed in high-tech, and we feel that it's best to leave both Lot 2 and Lot 3 as in their current condition with HT1 zoning. So with that, it was recommended for denial, ordinance 2020-95. With that, I'll answer any questions that you have, and John Delverne with Bear Becker is representing the applicant. He's here tonight as well. Okay.
Hi, go ahead, sir.
Real quick, can I have some, Mayor? So Lot 3 is going to remain in the high tech, right? Okay.
Good evening. My name is John Delverne with Bear Becker, 6900 Tylersville Road, Mason, Ohio, 45040. Yes, we are asking for Lot 2. Well, let me back up. With me tonight, going a little too fast, are the property owner, Satish Gangam. He's a Mason business owner here in his counsel. Sean Suter will speak a little bit later. Jim Reckers, commercial realtor, and his associate Sam Achuri is also here with me. So yes, as Kurt had mentioned, we are asking for Lot 2 to be rezoned from HT1 to business PUD. Satish does own Lot 3 as well, he and his partner. That is not part of our application tonight. That will remain in the HT zoning district. On screen, you can see Lot 2 is here. This is Socialville Foster Road in Mason, Montgomery. Though Lot 2, and we recognize it is less than 5 acres, it would become part of a much larger business PUD here in the green, highlighted in the green here, about 13 to 14 acres. So it's not like it's a fragment. It won't be a fragment of business PUD to be part of a much larger district. And this isn't without precedent. There have been a couple of other parcels here to the south, the Walgreens parcel and the Tide Cleaners, which were also less than 5 acres that were added to this district. So we think it's a reasonable request. Let's skip that slide. To strengthen, I think, the connection to the existing businesses to the west, we designed our open space as like a pocket park with pedestrian connections. The goal was to connect the existing office building here to the east and potential future office building to the existing businesses to the west. There will be a small circular area where there'll be some benches where you can sit outside, eat lunch, and what have you. Also, we are proposing a 6,264 square foot retail building. We are respecting the open space or the setbacks. 50-foot front setback is required here along the front, and you can see to the west and to the east, it's the same setback, that 50 feet. And then there will be 20-foot side and a rear yard that will be adhered to. Going to this plan, again, open space, 20% is required. This plan on the dot hatch on the plan are the areas that we counted as open space. We do meet the 20% requirement. Note that the required yards, the front yard, the side yards, and the rear yard are not included in that calculation. As far as the use, we did consider it as a general retail use, so we're proposing to park it at one space for 250 square feet, which would require about 26 spaces. We show 26 spaces on the plan. And then there was a mention of drive-through and or a pickup window. That is not part of the plan. Certainly a drive-through restaurant, we wouldn't be able to park a drive-through restaurant. The ratio would be way too high. So I can pretty much assure you there won't be a drive-through included as part of the plan. Access to Socialville Foster, it will be provided by a existing driveway here at this location. There is a 70-foot access and utility easement already platted to account for that drive to provide all of provide use for all three lots in this development. Public utilities are available to the parcel. There is a existing water main along the north side of Socialville Foster Road. There's an existing public sanitary sewer on the north side here in Lot 3, which we'll have access to. And there has been storm sewer already extended to this parcel. And stormwater will be conveyed to a regional detention basin that's located on the north side of Lot 3 in this location. Let's see if I can get through here. These are some perspectives that we included in our submittal package, just to kind of give you a sense of what it might look like when it's completely developed, all three lots. Again, this is Lot 2 here on the west side of the site. This is existing office building on the east side. And then this would be like maybe a future office building, what it might look like to the north. And then to this, in the lower right-hand corner, just a perspective from looking east to west of the open space and the tree-lined walk connecting the existing businesses to the office users here to the east. Again, we provided some elevation views of the proposed building. This would be the east elevation facing the existing office building. This is a perspective from the southeast. This is the southern elevation, which would face Socialville Foster. The materials that you see here, on the main element, entry element here on the south face would be a white brick over a stone veneer. And then to either side, you would have a white stucco over like a gray brick veneer. This would be the west elevation, which would be really the back of house. This is the north elevation facing Lot 3. And then this is the material board with the different material types that I just described. So with that said, Sean, if you want to say a few words.
Thank you, John. Mayor, members of council, thank you for having us tonight. I'm attorney Sean Suter representing the applicant. Just wanted to say a couple words of why we're here and why we're asking for what we are. We really see this as an extension of the BPUD next door. And the HT1 zoning was put in place in the late 90s as part of a plan that was hatched in the late 90s for this area. It has not come to fruition for this parcel and for the surrounding parcels that my client owns. If it could have been developed as HT1, it would have. My client has actively marketed this property under the current zoning for 8 years now. And at this point, the retail use is the most economically viable use that he has for the property. And rather than this property continuing to lay fallow, not produce anything as far as tax revenue for the city, we are proposing what is a very attractive development that actually fits the site well. It is a small site. It is not attracting any high-tech development to the site, especially for the size of that site. So what we're asking for is a rezoning from the zoning that was put in place in the late 90s. It is no longer viable to reflect what the market is now demanding. We also know that office, there's a lot of vacancy right now, as you may be reading around, not only around the country, but in Mason, we have a vacancy rate for office that Mr. Records can tell you about. It's about 26% right now. So the market for additional office space on this property is really not there. And like I said, if my client could have developed it under the current zoning, certainly would have been glad to have done so rather than just simply pay real estate taxes on it for the last how many years he's owned it. So we are looking for rezoning to bring this property into economic viability. And we thank you very much for your consideration of our request.
I'm Jim Reckers with Equity Commercial Real Estate, 455 Delta Avenue, 45206 Cincinnati. And I have been working on this parcel for several years to try to market it as high-tech office space and what have you, and have had no luck whatsoever. The problem that we're facing, and can I hand these out to each of the council members? I have a little handout here.
If you want to just hand them to Member Stricula, he can pass them. We've got a little gap under the glass. We can slide him through. Thank you, Mr. Reckers.
The first segment here is a market analysis of the vacant areas and vacant office space in the Mason. It's all within, I believe, 2 to 3 miles of the site in question here. And it's just a detail of how much office space is vacant. It's kind of evidence of what we're putting together. The second spreadsheet looking attachment here is the aggregate historical vacancy report. And if you look at the current, I believe it's highlighted in yellow at the top of the page, of 421,000 square feet of vacant office space in the area. That coupled with the next page, the aggregate absorption report that shows how much space is being absorbed. It's all a negative number. So the whole concept of developing the land into office space or high-tech light manufacturing is very, very difficult. With COVID and the increased working at home options that companies are facing, there's tons of vacant office space. And if we keep the zoning that we have there today, it seems like it's zoned for vacancy. And if we can instead change the zoning, if you look at the final page here, the additional revenue to the state, county, and city, the final page. If we go ahead and can convert this to a part of the PUD, the adjacent PUD, we would be generating about $216,000 per year in tax revenue for the state, county, and city. So once again, it seems like, and me being in the front lines trying to market this property for several years and has been sitting vacant for several years. It would just seem that it would be a logical move to change the zoning and allow revenue to start being generated instead of the site being zoned for vacancy. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other presenters? Okay, oh goodness. So it's time to open up the public hearing. It's now 8:40. And this is the time where we invite members of the public to speak for or against this zoning change. Is there anyone in the online queue? Okay, no one in the online queue. Is there anyone here in the building that would like to speak to this? Either for or against? Well, we're not seeing anybody. Let's give it a minute. All right, it's 8:41. Let's go ahead and close the public hearing. If someone pops up, maybe we can work something out. Okay, so I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, we need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and now it's time for council discussion. Any comments or questions?
Mayor.
Go ahead, we'll catch you next.
Thank you. I wanted to hear from Councilman Strickland on the Planning Commission.
Well, I was, but it just actually doesn't have a whole lot to do with this, but just in the spirit of full disclosure and transparency, the owner of the property, Mr. Gagnon, and I have known each other for 5 or 6 years, I think, and had a business relationship. He was my CPA for about 3 years, but has not been for the last 2 or 3. I already talked to Mr. Forbes about it. We're fine, but just in the spirit of transparency, just let everybody know. Thanks.
Thank you
I'll
for
have some
that.
comments later, but.
Member Bradburn?
Yeah, it's unusual when it comes to, the denial is 4, in favor 2, or in favor 4 and denial 2.
4 no and 2 in favor. And there were some concerns expressed, if I'm remembering correctly, that we didn't have an exact usage plan, and that was concerning. And there was an iffiness about the drive-through. And Mr. Delverna said that he's assuring us there would be no drive-through. And so there was a level of discomfort expressed with some to adopt or to approve something that they didn't really know exactly what they were approving yet. I recall that. Can you recall? Councilmember Honderlow was there with me.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Planning Commission did vote to not recommend this. I was a vote for it. I hear what they're bringing forth today. Basically, was the fact that we have limited issues. Let me see if I say this the right way. The office space. We have a lot of vacancy right now, and with COVID, more people are working from home. So I can sympathize with the owner trying to figure out what they're trying to do with this property and how we can, work with them and help. The issues were the fact that we were already bending situations with this PUD, cutting it from 5 acres down to 1.5 acres, and then whether or not there was only 1 pedestrian area versus 2. So we were already bending on those areas. It's unlike the city to be able to take a property that's HT1 that's brings in probably a higher salary income and lower it. And so that was probably the concern, I would say, from the city's standpoint. Overall, especially with the Planning Commission voting against it, I think that's still probably the best course of action. And maybe if we had a better usage, I think there's still a lot of concerns about a drive-through that are still on these current drawings that came to us today, whether it's a liquor store drive-through or what was going to happen. I think that's something that needed to be addressed that was not addressed. And so I think that's why it did not pass Planning Commission.
Mayor?
I am, thank you.
But this did not show a drive-through, right? No, no drive-through. Okay.
If I can jump in there though, so I think the concern was if we pass this as a PUD, we're not able to stop it from being something else. So even though they're saying no, they pretty much can do what they want after, if we were to go ahead and approve it.
But is there was something to do with the parking spaces per square foot?
Come on back up and we have lots of questions and that's really good.
Yep.
Don Delvern with Bearbecker.
Yeah, real quick. My question is, so the parking spaces, is there some sort of, I don't even know if it's restrictions or rules that say you would have to have X amount of more for a drive-through? Is that accurate?
Yeah, so when I think of a drive-through, I'm thinking of a restaurant drive-through.
Yeah.
The parking ratio is like one space for every 50 square feet.
This is one for every 200?
We're at one space for every 250 square feet. So if you 5 times the amount of parking, I don't think we wouldn't be able to get close to supporting a 6,000 square foot building. We wouldn't even be able to do part of it with a drive-through. So I don't think it's realistic.
Mayor, can I ask a question? So what is the issue with the drive-through? Why don't we want a drive-through?
The space was too tight. So that was the main issue there. As I recall, and it sounds like they're committed to it. I think there was a concern if they were to sell the property to another owner and then the owner wanted to do something and then we had limited ability to prevent something that might not be appropriate. But go ahead, Mr. Suter, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And we did not have the good fortune of having Mr. Forbes here at the Planning Commission last time. So I think there was a question on the legal side that was not addressed that could probably help if Mr. Forbes is available to do so. I believe this is a 2-step process. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the concept plan is the rezoning. You're amending the map from the HT1 to the BPUD. That doesn't mean what's being presented here is set in stone. I believe there's a final development plan process that it would have to go through. So therefore, that's where the details are worked out. And that's where the city could say, no drive-through. And we're saying tonight, there's not going to be a drive-through, but the city can actually impose that restriction into the zoning. So you do have that control. So this is not the final stop. This is just saying, hey, we're going to green light this to amend the zone map to allow for you to get to that next step so that we can work together to design something that works for both the property owner and the city. So I believe that's the case. Okay. Great. Any questions? Thank you.
I have a question. So at this time, do you have any idea how you would use the buildings? I know it's a lengthy process, but do you have an idea? Would it be a restaurant or a retail establishment?
As of now, it is being developed on specs. So it's a speculative retail development. So we do not, it's my understanding, and the client can elaborate if he has more information, but it's my understanding we have not identified any users for the property. However, the issue is marketing something that doesn't exist and isn't zoned. So you're not going to attract a lot of tenants to something that isn't zoned. But once we get it zoned, then it'll be able to be marketed.
Okay, thank you for that. Questions? Any other questions? Yes.
So I see staff review that says they don't recommend this for adoption. I'm assuming that's after the Planning Commission first denied it. Now staff has reviewed it and they're saying they don't recommend it. Is there some reason staff has other than what we've heard? Is there anything beyond what we've already heard from you in terms of why staff is not recommending this for adoption?
Yeah, actually, Vice Mayor, we recommended denial when it went to Planning Commission initially. And then Planning Commission, like you said, was a 4-2 vote and recommended denial. And one of our concerns was that this would totally change the character of that development. If you have any kind of a restaurant facility with a surgical center or medical professional office buildings in that center, when it was first proposed, late 90s, early 2000s, it was a campus of professional office buildings. Everything east of this has developed, and in the last 10 years, there's been lots of office buildings. I don't know for certain why this lot in particular has not developed, but certainly there's been a lot of office developments in this area, but it's unclear as to why this particular lot could be a number of factors.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, but isn't the building immediately to the west a restaurant?
To the west is a restaurant, yes.
So,
And that's part of the original White Blossom PUD.
And this is contiguous to that PUD, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the Mexican restaurant, and then there's UDF contiguous to that, and that White Blossom strip mall.
White Blossom was developed in one PUD, and this parcel happens to be in the high tech. Is that correct?
Correct.
So we've got an individual that's got a parcel that's not moving, not being sold. If it is a restaurant, I don't know that it's really that out of character with what's right next to it. I mean, I'm just, and I have to be honest, as far as the drive-through, I don't know too many restaurants. If it's a fast food, there's going to be a drive-through. I mean, I think in today's market, it pretty well shows that. Okay, thank you.
It's maybe a legal question for Jeff. If we change this development, what does it do to lot 2 in the back that is high tech? Does that create some issues with regard to they're coming in saying we want to be PUD also?
I can only tell you that every application has to be reviewed on its own merits. So I can't tell you that by approving this PUD that it would make any difference on that adjacent lot. I can only tell you that every application has to be reviewed on its own merits.
Mayor, I'd like to say I am going to approve this. I don't see why we wouldn't. It's a great example of sometimes it's better when government stays out, of the business sector. It's right next to a restaurant that already exists. The land is vacant. It's been vacant for a long time. Why not build it up? Why not put a business there? Why not generate revenue for our city? It's also across the street from a hotel. So it would be great. I would love another restaurant or another retail facility here in Mason. It isn't moving as an office space. I doubt that they are going to fill it up in the near future. I think office spaces with COVID are going to be dying. I think there's going to, be a problem with that. So I am perfectly for this. I think this would be great. I have no problems with it.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
Mayor?
Oh.
Not a question.
Yes.
And I usually don't have much to say on these. Just from a procedural standpoint, though, I want to make one thing clear, just on the vote, just in case there's confusion. The recommendation from Planning Commission is for disapproval, but that doesn't make a difference on the way you would vote. This is still presented to you as an ordinance to approve the rezoning. So if you want to approve the rezoning, it would still be a yes vote. But keep in mind that the Planning Commission recommendation was for disapproval. The other point I'd like to make is that under our PUD code, it provides that if council wants to reverse a recommendation for disapproval, which could potentially be what you're doing tonight, it does take a 2/3 vote of council. So that means it would take 5 affirmative votes to reverse the recommendation for disapproval from Planning Commission.
That was very helpful, actually, especially in a world where everything that's positive is now negative and things that are negative are positive. So thank you for that. Member Stricula, were you about to ask a question?
I don't have anything really new to add, except that, when you zoom out of this plot and you see what's around it, that this does not seem that unusual of a request. So I think it's a good fit. I think it's good for the vacancy of this property. Actually put something on it and get some retail in there. So I think it'll be good. And I'm for this as well.
Yes, Member Chance.
And to Mr. Suter's point, right, is there is a tiered process here. This isn't, carte blanche to go build whatever you want to. It still comes in front of us that we're going to be able to say yay or nay. And it sounds like I said, there's no way almost that there could even be a drive-through if we're one for every 50 square foot, and now we're at 1 and 250. So there's just not enough room, I would think, right? So. To Councilman Striculus, if you look at that, it's contiguous to something very similar in the surrounding. I'm completely good with this.
Record, it sounds like there's support for this, but I don't think I'm going to support this just because it wasn't supported by Planning Commission, nor is staff recommending it for adoption. So I'm going to be a no on this, but I just wanted to clarify. That's my reason for voting no, was did not denial of Planning Commission and the staff recommendation against it. So,
Mayor,
yes,
if I could just make one more clarification on the procedural issue that's been suggested. It is absolutely correct that it is a two-tiered approval process. Council, through this legislation, approves a concept plan that is the rezoning. The final development plan goes to Planning Commission, and assuming that the final development plan is consistent with the concept plan, that's where it ends. It does not come back to this council for final development plan approval.
Anything else? Let's call the roll, please.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
no.
Councilmember Hunter Law,
No.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Yes.
The motion passes with 5 affirmative votes. Thank you. Thank you for your patience, everyone. That was a hard decision. That's working under the tension of both ends, because I really respect the wisdom of the Planning Commission, and but I also can very much sympathize with all of you. Thank you. Good luck. Best wishes. We hope you have an amazing project. Can't wait to see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we should be at item 12 on the ordinance. Is everybody okay to keep going, or does anybody want to take a break? I think I'm okay if you guys are okay. We'll just kind of blow through this. Okay, we have some things that are combined together, so I think this will go relatively quickly. All right, so item 12, I think. Is that right? Okay, ordinance 2020-107. I need a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed?
An
Jeff?
ordinance accepting the proposal for the Sports Center Complex Drive Bridge Replacement Design from Choice One Engineering Corporation in the amount not to exceed fee of $33,670, and authorizing the city manager to execute contract documents.
Kurt?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Sports Center Complex Drive is the drive that goes to the golf center as well as the tennis complex. And along that roadway near where, if you're familiar with that, where our maintenance facility is, there's a bridge, what we consider a bridge. Eric and I go back and forth whether it's a bridge or a culvert. Actually, one side of it is a simple span slab, concrete slab with some steel beams underneath it. And the other side of it is 3 metal culverts where the bridge was extended at some point, probably 20, 30 years ago. So it's kind of a hodgepodge, and it's getting towards the end of its useful life. Staff has been monitoring it. We inspect it on a yearly basis, or ODOT, as part of our 3-year agreement with ODOT. They inspect it as part of all of our other bridges, anything over a 10-foot span in the city. For the past several years, ODOT has been doing those inspections for us. So this one's been on our radar and needs to be replaced. So This contract tonight is with, proposed to be with Choice One Engineering to evaluate several options, likely to be some kind of a box, concrete box structure that would replace it. That would be easily expandable in the future should that turn into, more of a entryway into the tennis and golf center facility. Choice One would do the surveying, easements, geotechnical services, as well as any kind of submittals that we need to EPA and the Corps for permitting in the stream. They have completed our Donna Jean culvert replacement, Mason Montgomery Bethany bike path, and the Eagle View culvert replacement in the past. And the 2020 budget included funds to both design and construct this project. We have not had an opportunity to get that work done. So it'll be designed with this proposal, and then if this moves forward, would be constructed at the end of the tennis tournament next year. And so we would want to be in a position to award it probably right before the tournament, let the contractor order materials, and then be ready to go as soon as the tournament is over next year. So with that, Ordinance 2020-107 is recommended for adoption, and I'll answer any questions that you have.
We need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Let's call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula.
Yes.
Item 13 on the agenda is Ordinance 2020-108. We need a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Jeff?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Lake Erie Construction Company in an amount not to exceed $50,000 for guardrail removal and replacement.
Kurt?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. There's about 80 locations in roads throughout the city where we have guardrail. There's several locations along Fairway and again Sports Center Complex Drive that are aging. Some of those have, actually all of the locations where we're looking to replace guardrail have the old type anchors where they're ramped up from a concrete anchor down in the ground. If a vehicle was to hit it, it pretty much flips the vehicle. Today's more safer guardrail end treatments are much safer, so that if a vehicle hits it, it's not going to flip the vehicle, and they're safer for the drivers should they leave the roadway. We also have several locations where the guardrail is actually on the inside of a curve and is not really needed in the first place. So some of this contract is to just remove existing guardrail as well, clean up that area. Our quotes, we got quotes from 3 contractors, with the lowest being Lake Erie Construction, and that was just over $45,000. The ordinance tonight recommends not to exceed amount of $50,000. We do have several guardrails throughout the city that have been bumped by vehicles and have like maybe an end treatment that needs to be replaced, or one stick of guardrail here and there where there are typical hit and run accidents that happen that we would use for minor repairs throughout the city. Generally, when there's a bad accident, we have the insurance. We do get those replaced under insurance, but there are some that are lingering out there. So with that, if this is approved, we would begin work as soon as this, still yet this year or early next year, depending on the contractor's schedule. And this was briefly discussed at the Public Services Committee on October 19th. And with that, Ordinance 2020-108 is recommended for adoption, and I'll answer any questions that you have. Thanks.
Thank you. We need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt?
Yes.
Moved.
Okay. Did we get a second on that?
Second.
Okay, council discussion. Anyone? All right, let's call the roll.
Member Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb.
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-109, motion to read by title only.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Yes. Any opposed? Kurt, Jeff?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with KT Supply Limited for the Mason-Lebanon Bike Path Connector project in the amount of $594,396.
Kurt.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is actually a pretty exciting project. Back in 2001, we did the City of Mason Bicycle and Pedestrian Way Master Plan, which actually I was a part of. And one of the main goals in that project was to eventually connect our bike network into the Little Miami Trail. And this project will finally do that with the City of Mason being the lead in the grant. And the City of Lebanon has donated the property and easements needed for this bike path that's shown in red here. Majority of that is actually on City of Lebanon property. This will connect from the existing bike path in the Ambleside Meadows subdivision and then over to Columbia Road, Kingsview area, where the City of Lebanon has their Countryside YMCA trail that connects into the Little Miami Scenic Trail system. So this project will finally make that connection, and it'll connect actually over from residents could park at the sports park and be able to bike all the way over to the Little Miami Trail. And then eventually, once we finish our roundabouts project, it'll connect onto Bethany Road and throughout the city. So pretty exciting. We actually got the grant funds from OKI. It's a transportation alternatives grant that will reimburse 80% of the project up to $500,000. And our bids came in, we got great bids. We had 8 bidders on the project, and it came in at just under $600,000 was the lowest bid by KT Supply. They are an ODOT pre-qualified contractor. They have not done any projects in the city yet, but both the president and vice president, it's a fairly new company. Both the president and vice president come from larger construction companies in the Cincinnati region and are very familiar with the ODOT LPA project requirements. The 2020 budget included $725,000 for this project, and it's expected to start early next year and hopefully be done by maybe mid to late summer next year. There is a pretty significant retaining wall. Other than that, there's a few culverts that need to be put in, and it's a pretty straightforward project. So with that, Ordinance 2020-109 is recommended for adoption.
We need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, motion to adopt.
Second?
Any council discussion?
Mayor.
Yes.
So the majority of this is in the City of Lebanon. So why are we paying for it?
Well, actually, we were the lead on the grant, and the City of Lebanon donated all of the land and has agreed to maintain the bike path once it's complete. So we actually had more of the bike path that would have been included, and it was included in our original application. Since then, the Ambleside Meadows subdivision came in, and we were able to get a significant amount of that bike path accomplished with the developer of Ambleside Meadows. So it puts a majority of the path within the City of Lebanon. Yep.
Okay.
Mayor? I think it's excellent. I think that's trying to get to the current bike path now is treacherous and dangerous. And I think this is incredible because once you get to there, you can go to Xenia and back. So serious people, you can ride 94 miles or whatever that is. So I think this is awesome. So good job, good work on that.
Mayor, yeah, what I recall, even when I campaigned, I would ask people what's the biggest issue they would have with the city of Mason. And besides maybe traffic or the size of the school, they wanted to talk about, the number one thing everybody wanted was to see more bike paths connected, was to finish situations like this. And so I think this is a great deal, but I did see the same thing that Councilmember Nelson saw, that the majority of it's in the city of Lebanon, but with them donating the right of way and we got a grant paying 80% of it, dang. So yeah, I think this is a go.
Mayor, but just a point of clarification, the project's almost 600,000, but 80% is reimbursed through that grant. So almost
Right.
$75,000.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Yep. We'll max out the grant.
How does that compare, that number that we end up paying out of pocket, to Lebanon's contribution? Well, I guess if they're maintaining it.
We did not do appraisals on theirs
Okay.
because they donated it. So, but it's, the whole project is, I want to say, about a little over a mile of bike path. So
It sounds like they have a good deal and we have a good deal because they have to take care of it.
yeah, and there's parts of their property we've walked the alignment to try to get a good alignment through there. That's going to be future industrial development in their city, so they wanted to make sure it wasn't going to affect some of their development. And there is some cuts and fills in there, and so there's some significant easement that we would have had to purchase from the property owner.
Can we see the Countryside Y on this map?
You cannot. No. The Countryside Y Trail is here on Kingsview, and it keeps going up Kingsview, and then there's a pretty significant hill that it goes up to get to the Y eventually.
Okay, so it'll be a good workout. Okay, we have a board member of the Countryside Y in our audience today, Mr. Hollingshead. Hello. So that's great. We're going to be able to connect to you, and we can have a bike race from Mason to the Countryside Y now. Wonderful. Thank you. He was saying how he and Senator Wilson began working on that bike path over 20 years ago and have continuously been attentive to it. So this is going to be great for everyone in our communities. Anything else? Yes.
Mayor, Kirk, the two subdivisions between Mason Mar, Mill Grove, and the bike path, do they currently have entrances? Because I know we put bike paths, I think one circles around Embassy Street and Chatsworth, because I remember a bridge there that they, during planning commission, and they were really not wanting to put that in.
Yeah.
We made them do it because we knew this was eventually all connecting.
That's correct.
So they will be able to connect, or how will the connectors go to these subdivisions here?
Yeah, so they're actually already connected. If you look, both of these sections here are the Willowbrook subdivision, and the bike path is kind of hard to see. It comes around here and actually goes down through the woods and connects right here. It's actually where you would go to play Frisbee golf or disc golf in the sports park. So it connects onto that trail through the sports park and then through Ambleside Meadows. So they can get there using the bridge in this location to cross, actually our bridge in the sports park to cross Muddy Creek.
Great, thank you.
All right, let's call the roll, please.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunter Law.
Yes.
Item 15 on the agenda is ordinance 2020-110. I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Jeff?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract or contracts with a musical entertainment agency or agencies in a total amount not to exceed $150,000 for entertainment artists for the 2021 Red Rhythm and Boom concert.
Eric?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to address the next two ordinances as they are a package deal, basically. The city is, unfortunately, this year, Red Rhythm Boom was canceled prior to any significant cost being incurred. We are at the beginning of the planning time frame, though, for a 2021 Red Rhythm Boom event. This takes significant advanced planning, excuse me, to put the wheels in motion, to put on the caliber of event and the size of event that the city has enjoyed in the past several years. Next year's event is scheduled to take place on Saturday, July 3rd. Having the event on the Saturday tends to heighten the profile as well as the attention to it. The city has for many years been focused, when we look at entertainment options, provide looking at what provides the best value in terms of pricing, a family-focused atmosphere, and looking at current popular artists and bands. We have discovered as we've begun this process, and a little bit that learned from this previous year, finding the entertainment is always it's not a typical market that you might, when you're shopping for a car or something, finding an entertainment is a lot more fickle. The process I anticipate this year will be even more uncertain. What we have learned so far is that many entertainment acts are tentatively looking at picking up schedules that were interrupted this year, but neither are they committing to anything beyond that. They're playing it pretty close to the vest on where they go. That has and then there are many acts that just are not putting themselves on the market at this point. We expect, and maybe with recent news, that there may be more certainty in the market as we get into early in the year, which is typically our time frame for confirming the act. But what is before you is what we have done for the past several years and had success. Council authorizes an ordinance that does not specify the vendor, that allows us to look at different booking agents and talent agencies, but sets a dollar value, in this case $150,000. In the past, we've been able to use that with some success to secure both a headline artist as well as an opening act. The recommendation this year is, despite the uncertainty in the market, authorizing ordinance 2020-110 to pursue a similar path as in previous years. The companion ordinance to that, ordinance 2020-111, is for the stage, sound, video. That includes the LED screens that folks have gotten accustomed to, the lighting, and production costs. For the scale of event that the city has, these are very highly specialized and in the scale of what needs to be provided to meet the acts. If we were to have lower caliber acts, sometimes we can bring that closer in-house, but for national popular acts, they have very strong guidelines as far as all of those things that they require. So we have had success for many years contracting with Frequency City Sound to deliver the level of equipment and service required to meet the artist-specific requirements. This year, for example, previous years, we spent approximately $125,000 for those services. This year's ordinance is at a cost not to exceed $150,000. That accounts for both possible inflation in the marketplace, but also may allow us the ability to add additional LED screens if we need to accommodate both social distancing, as well as it may extend the campus to amenities such as the outdoor pool. So folks that may be able to enjoy the event, even though they aren't immediately on the campus here, gives us some latitude to explore that. As I mentioned, significant advanced planning is necessary, both to secure the artists, the production needs, as well as to put in motion all of the city staff, our instant command system. And I think Dan Chambers is the instant commander yet again on that effort. So I think he would appreciate some advance notice to get things in place. One thing that we have done the last several years and enjoying success, the funds for the following year's event are actually budgeted in the prior year. So what was budgeted for 2020 were funds for what we anticipate in 2021. I'd anticipate the same step as we go into the budget this year, that we'll be talking about funds, not actually for next year's act, but for the following year's act. That helps us be a little bit ahead of the curve, as well as it's a fairly conservative budgeting process that you're always kind of one step ahead of your encumbrances. With that being said, ordinance 2020-110, authorizing dollars for security and entertainment, and ordinance 2020-111, the companion piece for the stage, video, lighting services are recommended for adoption.
We need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Do we get a second? Sorry.
Second.
Council discussion. Anything? Oh, Mr. Bradburn.
Yes, I had little discussions with the city manager, and I enjoyed your comment back that it's like asking a cheerleader to the prom and you don't know if she's going to accept as far as the act. And I guess that's a little bit of what we got here, because we're going to get a lot of proposals and they're going to pick the one that works best for them. And I would say that I think you're right in the fact that there's probably going to be a higher cost this year for a Quality Act. And I would not be surprised if, as this list of cheerleaders comes back that we have to review, that we may need to supplement this if we're going to have a Quality Act. Leave it at that.
Anyone else? Let's call the roll.
Member Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw?
Yes.
Mayor Grossman?
Yes. Item 16, ordinance 2020-111, motion to read by title only.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Jeff?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Frequency City Sound in an amount not to exceed $150,000 to provide the stage, sound, lights, and video screens for the 2021 Red Rhythm and Boom concert.
We need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt?
So moved. Second.
Any council discussion? Let's call the roll.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw?
Yes.
Mayor Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Item 17, ordinance 2020-112, motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Jeff?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Federal Resources to provide hazardous materials response training to the fire department.
Eric?
This ordinance can be very technical, but it can also be a very simple housekeeping matter here. Fire departments respond to hazardous materials calls. While we don't always have the skills or resources in-house to actually deal with the call or to address the call, that's why we participate regionally with hazardous materials response groups. The fire department, it does have significant responsibilities there in identifying the materials, knowing what is needed to deal with it, and contacting appropriately the regional resource, and then providing assistance there. There's a high degree of training that goes with that. We have a lot of firefighters that optimally would have that training, and thanks to the fire department, I think Chief Brummage and his staff in particular, we have worked with the Northeast Fire Collaborative, which is a group that we are a part of that represents some consistency among some of the northeastern fire departments. They were able to secure a grant through the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio in the amount of $16,850, which allows the city of Mason, on behalf of the Northeast Collaborative, to host some high quality training specific to hazardous materials and be able to offer that to members of the collaborative as well as some of our nearby mutual aid providers. Essentially what this ordinance 2021-12 does is it authorizes the initial expenditure by the city of that $16,850 to secure the training, and then to provide for reimbursement from the Public Utilities Commission to reimburse us for the expense of that. It is an excellent deal given that it's free and it provides us some training that otherwise could be extremely expensive. Allows us to train very broadly, not only throughout the department, but also with the agencies that we collaborate with most frequently. So it is heartily recommended for adoption.
We need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt?
Moved. Second.
Any council discussion? Okay, let's call the roll, please.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw?
Yes.
Mayor Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Next on our agenda are committee reports. Well, and the Economic Development Committee met. That's the only committee we have on our agenda. And we discussed most of what we talked about, or a lot of what we talked about, which was Ready Cincinnati and whether or not to continue with that partnership. And so I'll give you just a couple highlights from that. 6,425 new jobs and 4 $163.8 million in new capital investment have come to the region as just in 2019 as a result of partnerships with Ready Cincinnati. In Mason, we also hit record levels of economic activity during the same time frame, 2019, with the city's new job creation measuring at approximately 13%, which is about 500 new jobs coming to the Research and Development Park area in North Mason. And then new capital investment at approximately 43% positive, which is $200 million in capital investment. And that is pretty incredible. So I'm glad that my committee and all of council unanimously agreed to continue with this partnership. We talked about some things in executive session as well, which I can't comment on now, and we will, I'm sure, be back in action. I think we're about due for an economic development committee. I'll just go ahead and bring this up now. We talked a little bit about what to do if we have more funds that are not yet encumbered with CARES Act funding or small business relief issues. And so I wondered if, we can study any subject in any committee, but I wondered if there is a committee that wants to take up that topic so that we have something in place. The natural committee would be economic development, but since we now know from Commissioner Grossman's presentation, we need to be nimble in November with a plan. Is there a committee besides Economic Development Committee that would like to take that up?
Mayor?
Yes.
Kind of along those lines, I'm glad you brought it up and thank you for doing so. And I think in the spirit of what we discussed early on in the meeting, we got a letter from the chamber earlier this week to all of council. And I'd just like to thank the chamber for sending it out and advocating on behalf of our small businesses. And an excerpt of that letter states, as part of an ongoing discussions with our local businesses, it has become evident that there is additional financial need in the business community required to support the acquisition and deployment of all-weather space creations. These financial needs include investment in winterization equipment and materials, as well as ways to help safely activate outdoor spaces during the colder weather months. So I think what we've been able to do is identify, or the chamber has helped us identify where some of those funds can be used and where some of these businesses are going to be using those funds. And I would just encourage, and I would guess inside the committee side that downtown committee look at this because, and engage all the small businesses that, maybe they were talking about. But yeah, and I think we need to, get on that. And if they could meet together pretty quickly to discuss it, I think it's the timing is obviously pretty crucial given, it's been beautiful now, but I know the weather's not going to last like this. So I just like to bring that to council's attention. Like I said, I think we all got the letter and thank the chamber again for doing what they do with our local businesses and being able to advocate for them and bring, specifics to our attention that we need to possibly be looking at. So that's all I have.
So let's go ahead and segue into item 19, old and new business, and we can talk about that. I'm fine with it being in a committee that's different from economic development, but I think this is a great opportunity for all of council to give some feedback on what expectations or hopes might be. I'm not sure if we ended up with something from Warren County, I believe that's federal money that may be required to be given as a grant. I'm not sure, what the program should look like just yet, unless we did some type of other round of what we've already done. But I would ask that it's accessible to, the broader community and not just one region of Mason. But it's certainly fine to study as a downtown committee. That's certainly okay. But we will have to figure out a way to make it fair.
Mayor, I think it's probably appropriate for downtown committee to look at that issue, but as we did with the other programs that we already implemented, they were fairly equal in terms of treating everyone equally across the city, not specifically focused on any specific group or individual. And certainly would, believe that we should continue that type of philosophy where we try to make sure that we're inclusive and supporting everyone, not just picking out selected groups or individuals to to receive those funds, and certainly just would encourage the committee to look at things along those lines.
Has the city contacted ATP? Have they gotten any money from us? Because, I mean, I'm concerned. I mean, that 1 week out of the year is the revenue that they generate for the whole year, and ATP was not in existence this year. Have we given them any money?
We have not given them money. They have not asked. The event was held. The primary dollars from the event come through sponsorships.
So they'll get some of that money.
It was certainly a down year in terms of attendance, and the sport continued. Their model obviously had to change as far as attendees, and I believe their sponsorships, and they did not. We have talked with them, and we've talked about partnerships in the future. They have not. They did not apply. They have not asked. They have not indicated a need.
Okay.
Okay, so downtown committee will lead the charge on that. And then I would make a suggestion to have staff involved with the CIC, or I guess if council member Gilb came, that might be tricky for you to share, but maybe perhaps invite a member of the CIC that's non-staff to, if you want to get some ideas on how they actually went through their process, their selection process. I wasn't there, I didn't get to see it, but I understand it was very structured and very well done. And so that's a suggestion from me. But yeah, as long as there's fairness, you know.
Well, Mayor, wouldn't the finance committee then be better apt for something like this then? If they kind of handled this that way, did cover the whole broad area?
I think the downtown committee can do it and still keep it broad. Yeah, I brought that up since it was downtown committee. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't just for downtown. But yeah, I think that they can.
Mayor, just encourage the downtown committee to, you know, talk to the downtown businesses. Let's get out there. Let's beat the streets a little bit. Let's include, if it's the CIC, I think it even says in this, they don't care, right? I don't think the chamber's sitting there beating their chest saying they want to be the people, because they know that's probably not the case. But whoever it is, right? I just think we need to engage with these businesses and actually have conversations with them. So I'm encouraging the downtown committee, or whatever committee it is, to get out and talk to them, engage them at least, right? I love our staff. You guys do an incredible job, but these monies are being appropriated to downtown business, or small businesses, not downtown businesses, small businesses in Mason. I encourage us to get out and talk to them. So, and I appreciate the idea about the outdoor spaces, but I mean, we couldn't possibly grant enough to cover all restaurants and bars and fitness facilities in Mason. So there's got to be a way to figure out a system, though, with what we have left over. And, you know. You're the highest in the nation.
I know. So there's got to be a way. I just want to make sure it's, you know, we honor equal protection and equal opportunity there, and make it as equitable as possible to all. But yeah, I'm thankful that your committee is willing to take it on. The CIC loved their opportunity to serve in the last round. I got a lot of positive feedback about that. Yes, Eric.
I want to make sure as you have these discussions that you, and maybe this is just an expectation, to the extent it may require legislation depending on what the program is, to the extent that you would like it reimbursed, time is absolutely of the essence. There's just not a lot of room there to cast a program and then to get the funds expensed, distributed so they can be expensed in time to be eligible for any reimbursements that may be possible. I don't know if we will need that. There's that big question mark on how much money in addition to what we're receiving become available. I just want council to know that whatever programs you may be considering, that may require legislation, and may require ramp-up time with reimbursement.
That's a great point, because I think 2 of our members of that committee are going to be out of town next week. Is that going to work?
Ashley's not on the committee.
Josh and, I thought you were, okay, I'm so sorry, I forgot. Okay, so Member Stricula, are you able to fit that into your schedule if you're traveling? Because you can do remote meetings. Okay,
Yeah, I mean, we'll coordinate.
okay.
Figure it out.
I wasn't sure if you were like going to be out in the outer, like in the Badlands or something where there wouldn't be a lot of reception. But hopefully we can make that work. Okay.
Mayor, if I could weigh in. So I think our previous programs were focused on trying to drive customers to Mason businesses. And so the question I think the committee's going to have to wrestle through was how do we best incentivize Mason residents to utilize Mason businesses, which is what we try to do in our other programs, versus giving out dollars that perhaps they purchase. Businesses have then purchases of perhaps, as the chamber says, heating equipment. Is that a good use of the money, or is it better to drive the customers and let the businesses use the revenue from those customers to decide what they need to utilize in their space? And I certainly just would encourage the committee to talk those things through and determine whether are they looking for customers to come to them, or are they looking for dollars that they can purchase things that maybe nobody comes to utilize? But I guess the committee is going to work through that.
So gift cards or something like that.
Mayor,
Okay.
if I may,
Yes.
I did read the chamber's letter, and when they talk tents and propane and that, I think we have to be very well aware of the life safety codes before we go ahead and jump off the bridge and say, do this and do that, or that's okay. I think you're probably looking at your fire officials and your building officials as far as, a tent with a propane or whatever. So I think we have to be very well aware of that as we go into this and take a look at it. It sounds a reasonable request, but, we don't, something about a propane in a tent just doesn't make me feel too safe.
Anyone else? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think for me, driving traffic and fairness, getting people there to support those establishments. Anything else in old and new business?
Mayor.
Member Nelson.
I've been following House Bill 49 regarding centralized tax collection for years. A quick reminder of what centralized tax collection is. The state legislation passed House Bill 49 in 2017. This gives the option for businesses to sign up, to file, and pay their net profit tax with the state of Ohio instead of paying directly and filing directly with Mason. The state of Ohio would take a 0.5% cut and distribute the remaining money back to Mason. And I've always had a huge problem with the fact that Ohio was taking a percentage of our tax dollars. We have always been very efficient in tax collection, and we really didn't need the state of Ohio to come in and do this for us, and we definitely didn't need them to come in and take a 0.5% from us. Mason, along with 160 other municipalities, filed a lawsuit against the state of Ohio, claiming a violation of home rule authority. This case made its way all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the ruling finally came down on Thursday. The Ohio Supreme Court ruled that centralized tax collection is constitutional due to the General Assembly's authority to restrict municipal income tax. However, the Supreme Court also ruled that it is unconstitutional for the state to charge a 0.5% fee to the municipality to cover the state's administrative costs to operate the centralized tax collection system. So even though the Supreme Court ruled in favor of centralized tax collection, I think this is still a huge win for municipalities. I was always very fearful that the voluntary sign up for centralized tax collection would spread to a forced filing requirement with the state and eventually move from a business requirement to an individual income tax requirement. This would have had grave repercussions to the revenue of Mason and most likely would have caused an increase in our taxes. Mason tax dollars should stay in Mason. This is a very expensive thing for the state to manage. Centralized filing system. And the system currently has so many glitches in it that it hasn't even been a smooth process. I doubt that the state of Ohio is going to continue down this path with the expense involved, the time, and the manpower that's behind collecting these funds. So I think that even though we lost the case, we still won it, in my opinion. On a different note, if you could pass this down. The ability to hold meetings virtually via electronic technology rather than in person will expire on December 1st without legislation taking action to extend that deadline. I would like to pass a resolution today, Resolution 2020-17, asking the governor to extend the deadline to meet virtually so measures can be continue to be taken to fight the spread of the coronavirus within our community and to minimize the risk both to public officials and the public. We're hoping in the lame duck session that there will be some legislation taken to extend this. We've been fortunate enough, I think we've only had 1 or 2 times where we've had to have a council member Zoom in to the meeting, but I definitely don't want anyone here to feel, if they feel like they have COVID symptoms, that they have to come in for the meeting and contaminate the rest of us. So other municipalities have been
Contaminate.
Yeah, other municipalities have also filed this resolution. So I'm hoping that we can file it tonight also. So I'm gonna make a motion to pass resolution 2020-17.
Right. The first thing would be a motion to add it to the agenda.
Okay, sorry. I'd like to add resolution 2020-17 to the agenda.
There's a second?
Second.
Okay, any council discussion? Call the roll.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunter Law,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Yes.
Okay. So now we'll need a motion to suspend the rule and read by title only, correct? Or no, should we go ahead and read the,
That's council's discretion, but the normal course would be a motion to read by title only. That's usually the first thing you do.
that's so moved? We're gonna so moved. And is there a second?
A second.
Okay, all right. All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed?
This is resolution 2020-17, a resolution to urge Governor DeWine and the Ohio legislature to extend the deadline for operating public meetings electronically and declaring an emergency.
Hey, we need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? A motion to adopt?
So moved.
Okay, any council discussion?
Yeah, I have a question probably with Jeff. So we can't decide this on our own? We need the governor to pass this?
Remember, before the state legislature took any action on this, state law required that all public meetings, that you had to be physically present for all public. So I guess it was back in, what was it? March, or yeah, at the end of March, the state legislature passed a bill that allowed councils and other public bodies to meet electronically or remotely. Without that state action, you never would have been allowed to do Zoom meetings in the first place. So they passed that back in March, but it had an expiration date, so to speak, of December 1st. I suspect in March, no one anticipated that there might be a need for Zoom meetings beyond December. So that law is set to expire December 1st. So if you want the opportunity to meet remotely beyond that, it would take action by the state.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I suppose nobody is, are other communities submitting a resolution asking for a sunset date so that it's not an indefinite?
I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that they're asking for 30 days. What is it, after December 30th? I could be wrong.
There has been some discussion about that because of public notice requirements. If this is going to expire on December 1st, I know there has been some discussion about that. Keep in mind that what the bill that's presently pending that would remove that December 1st expiration date, it still says that the remote meetings will end when the governor's declaration of emergency ends. So this will not be forever. Well, presumably it will not be forever. So the bill that's pending removes the December 1st termination date, but there is still a deadline that once this governor's state of emergency ends, then you have to go back to in-person meetings.
So, Mayor, then, so if we're practicing, we got plexiglass between us, we could be wearing masks if we wanted, right? And the city's wiping down everything, we can have these meetings in person no matter what the governor does, correct?
If you're asking me, that's correct.
Yes,
No, that's correct, and it's a good point because right now you're still allowed to have virtual or electronic remote meetings, whatever you want to call it. This council's determined that at least at this point, you're comfortable with certain precautions having in-person meetings. You could continue doing that even if this extension is granted.
So I just looked it up and it's 30 days after the expiration of the state's emergency declaration.
That's the Senate bill.
So basically, this resolution is to encourage or campaign for the
correct
that. Okay. All right. Well, when we started the in-person or the virtual meetings, I had 6-pound puppies. Now there's 60-pound puppies. So I really, really hope that we don't have to go back to meetings from home. Anyway, anybody else have any questions? Okay, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
No.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula.
Yes.
Okay, anything else in old and new business? That resolution passed, by the way. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, yes,
Just
no problem.
briefly, I just want to bring up again a huge thank you to the city staff, to the Veterans Board of Affairs for the acknowledgement of Mason as a Purple Heart City for the event this evening. And also I did forget to mention Chief Ron Farrell's name. Councilmember Nelson did, so I appreciate that, but I did forget to mention his efforts with this as well. So I just want to bring his name up too. So thank you.
Thank you for remembering that. And thank you to the committee, again, the Board of Veterans Affairs did a marvelous job. It was a very moving ceremony and it was just right. It was so neat to hear from our Gold Star families and our Purple Heart Award recipients. We had a gentleman who received 7. I got to meet him. That's one of Member Hunterlaw's old neighbors. And then one who'd received 5. It's amazing. And then most of the other ones I think had received 1, but just remarkable that we have so much history and patriotism in our community. All right. Thank you, Member Stricula. Item 20 is recognition of visitors. Do we have anybody here or in the queue that would like to be recognized?
Members of council, Mr. Stegbauer would like to address council once again. Mr. Stegbauer, you can go ahead and address council at your.
Hello, this is Randy Stegbauer again, 5358 Hidden Creek Circle. 3 comments. The Vice Mayor Gill was mentioning the gift cards were being spent are passed out to everybody, but my wife discovered today that they're not. I don't know how you figure that, you know, I don't know if that's relevant or not, or if you, anything you can do about it. But there's just a point that I heard when you mentioned it, talked about it earlier tonight here. As far as the heaters, for the restaurants, I kind of think that the restaurants would need the expanded space now to attract the more patrons there. They're already forced to, you know, reduce the seating now, so it's going to be hard for them to expand to get more business and then let them, you know, to make more profit so that they can afford them first. In other words, I think they might need help first, and then, you know, that would drive the business back to them. And I want to just also comment that I love all the bike paths and walking paths in Mason. That's one of the first things that I brag on when somebody's thinking about moving here. You know, that's a tremendous asset to the town. And finally, Mayor Grossman, I would love a response to my comments that I made tonight here, because I believe that there's other residents that would like to hear as well. And that way I won't have to try to retell it to somebody else. I can tell them to, you know, what you said. Everybody can hear what you have to say tonight. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Is anyone else waiting in the queue? Okay, Mr. Stegbauer, I'll do my best. I wrote a few notes down. The $50 e-gift cards, that was the first note, and you brought that up again. I believe those only can go to sewer customers because they're funded by the sewer fund. Is that correct, Eric? Yes. Okay,
Yes.
so
A couple of responses there from folks that have asked. It's only to sewer customers, the ones that actually pay the bill, that we have their emails, that we have a correct current email, and their spam filter or their quarantines. Several folks have indicated that they're, you know, once they check their quarantines, they find the email. If all of those are true and they still haven't gotten the gift card, encourage them to call the city, and we can always go back and backtrack that. But there are folks, for example, apartments, folks that aren't paying their sewer bill will not receive one.
Okay.
And we cannot make accommodations within that program the way it was structured.
thank you. Yes.
Who does the email come from also? So if you're looking for that email, it might be good to search for.
Yes, I believe that should search for Yifty, the name Yifty, and I forget.
YIFTE.
YIFTEE.
Okay, and then Mr. Stegbauer, the only other thing I wrote down is about the report that I haven't submitted a final draft on. And I think you asked about why would I want to add an appendix? The appendix just is an appendix. It reflects what is covered more broadly in the references section in the beginning. And he asked a question of whether it can be removed from the public record.
Several folks have asked similar questions, and I think the misnomer may be when you place it in the public record. I don't think that's probably the best language to use, that something's placed in the public record. And Jeff may want to weigh in here. Something may be a public record, and that isn't a choice that we make or a designation we make. For example, our council agenda is definitely a public record. The legislation we adopt is a public record. None of us can choose to take it in or out. So if a document is generated, as long as it fits the criteria of a public record, it just is a public record, and you can't destroy it or remove that designation.
To add to that, that's exactly right. The state law defines what a public record is. If a document or a record in any format meets that definition, it's a public record.
Okay, so does that meet the definition?
Yes.
Yes, it did. Okay, all right. Okay, so the answer to that question is no. And I think the appendix is important. It simply reinforces. There were people that expressed concern about private records being shared in the report, and nothing from the report at all was a private record. It was all a marshaling of public records from disparate sources and just marshaled into one report. And so I decided to do the appendix based on the responses that I got and the concerns expressed by the records. So it just has taken me a little while to marshal all that together, and I did not think tonight was the night to bring that up. So I'll be bringing it up soon, though. It's just about done. All right, anything else? Oh, well, that's right. We're in recognition of visitors. Anyone else? Seeing there is none, I will ask you for a motion to adjourn.
Move second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? All right. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time.